your YouTube friends. And please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mike Show. And then follow us on Instagram at One Mike Show. We are also taking live calls at 202-683-4570 and press a *5 to speak and save that number. Now, later tonight, we'll be discussing why it's important for parents to keep their children in mind on major financial decisions before they make them. Want to understand what happens to your assets back home in Kenya when you die while living abroad. So want you to keep it locked to find out and to start commenting on that. If you have assets outside Kenya, if you have assets across other countries outside of the United States. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Omosh Fire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Ochezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwana habari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we'll actually be talking about fraudulent schemes that promise quick wealth. Financial literacy advocate Wacheke Ndirangu will be telling us why immigrants, ethnic minorities, and black people are the most susceptible victims in this devious enterprise. Now, please start dropping comments on whether you know of any victims of such schemes, or if you've been a victim of such a scheme, want you to start talking to us right now. And I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 25th of August, and we are coming to you live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Please remember to subscribe to our One Mike Show YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at One Mike Show. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mike Kamakawa. Our sports anchor, Mika Och, will be joining us via Zoom. We also have our cultural contributor, Annette Karanja, who's also going to be on Zoom. And DJ Machachari Mleta Habari, our resident DJ Omoshfire, is not so resident today. He's in another undisclosed location. So we might want to try to know where that undisclosed location is. And also not forgetting our super producer, Mubelwa Bandio, who is in the background, helping us get the show started. Now, I want to get started right away because we're running a bit behind schedule today. Now, I know most of you have at one time or another been approached to join some lucrative, life-changing financial prospects. Now, these were typically packaged as once in a lifetime opportunities that needed immediate actions. And then with advent of social media and online advertising, it became easier and cheaper to target specific groups of people. Now, some of the easy targets include black people, immigrant populations, and a lot of other ethnic minorities. Now, the opportunities are usually unclear, sometimes clouded in secrecy, and tend to tell success stories that cannot be fully verified. Now, to help us understand and identify when these get-rich-quick schemes are being marketed, why they're being marketed to us, we have financial literacy advocate Wacheke Ndirangu. Now, Wacheke is a champion of early financial education for children and also strives to help the Kenya diaspora population make good financial decisions. Wacheke, we want to welcome you back to the One Mike Show. It's not your first time here. Wacheke, karibu sana.
Be with you guys this evening.
Okay, all right. Can you hear us, Wacheke?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Now, Wacheke, besides being an avid One Mike Show listener or One Mike Show fan, this is actually not your first time being on the One Mike Show. Just talk to us, like for those who are maybe seeing you for the first time, like what part of the US are you in, and just talk a bit about your financial literacy advocacy, Wacheke.
Well, so I've been on the show. So I discovered you guys in 2020 during COVID. A shame that I had not discovered you guys before. But you guys do a big service to the community because you address the issues that concern us in a fun and simple way that anybody can understand. We're struggling we're here in America, but we are also looking back in Kenya. Second thing is we are also raising kids here who, most of them probably don't identify with Kenya as much as we do. So the issues that you address in the show speak to us a lot. when it comes to finance, it's something I'm very, very passionate about, something I've always been passionate since I was young. So funny thing is, I used to, when I was in high school, I was in a boarding school. I went to Pango, and we used to get pocket money. But me, I'm that kid who will save their pocket money and maybe use just a small fraction and take it home. So a little background about me. I was raised by a single mom. My dad died when I was 4, and I saw the struggles. I mean, we were not wealthy. I believe if I compare myself, we were a bit well off, but still it was a struggle because it was a one income household. So I was always that child who felt a lot, and I always wanted to ease the burden on my mom, even though she didn't ask. It was just me. I have a sibling. He was very, very different from me. He's the one person, like, after 3 weeks in school, he has no money. He's calling home for money. Versus me, if I'm given 300, I'll use 100 and I'll have 200 by the time we close school. So that's how I've always been. And then obviously coming to America, it's a different ball game altogether. Like in Kenya, we do have that culture of saving, but it's very different because, as you know, as we know, you don't only need to save, but you need to your money to work for you. So that means that you need to understand uh, where your money is going, your paycheck. If you're being taxed, how can you save on taxes? So I made a conscious effort to learn how my money works for me here in America after making so many mistakes, like every one of us. And so that's why I'm very passionate to pass these lessons to my daughter, to make sure I'm setting up for success so she doesn't make the same mistakes that I make.
Okay, all right. Quite interesting there, especially the part where you said you had a sibling who was total opposite from you, which I think is very important when we start teaching our children about finances. You first of all have to understand what personality each of your child has, so as to know where to get started with teaching them finances. Are they a saver? Are they a spendthrift? So I think that's a very interesting point that you brought up there. But now, before we get into the reasons why our community tends to be so susceptible to the get rich quick schemes, there's someone. Okay, all right. Can you hear me, Wacheke?
I think it's Mika.
Okay. I think we need to mute someone. Someone needs to mute on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, my question was, before we get into the reason why our community tends to be susceptible to get rich quick schemes, maybe give us some examples so that the audience can have context, because some of these products are packaged so well as financial products that you need, that people sometimes don't know that these are just profit centers for other people, and it might be products that they don't need. So maybe you can just start by giving us a few common examples that people may recognize.
I think what comes to mind is Bitcoin mining. And a few years ago, just before the pandemic, I know a lot of people, my friends included, they lost a lot of money to Bitcoin mining, like $10,000, $20,000. You're going to mine, and the mines are based in Iceland. And I know that, long-term friendships are broke because of that. Because, I come and Annette is my friend, and I sell her, this Bitcoin mining, and we're gonna, make money. And I go and empty my savings, my emergency fund, knowing that I'm gonna make a killing, and it's not that. So that's one that comes to mind. The other thing is about trading, whether it's derivatives trading, so like options or forex, as well as stocks. I see it, especially with social media now. They're everywhere. You're being told you can be a day trader and make lots of money, or you can do options trading and make a lot of money. Like I had someone, and I'm a very, very open-minded because I don't know everything. Yes, finance is my background. That's what I do day to day, but I'm always open-minded. So I go to this, and then sometimes you listen, and someone will say, "Okay, I had 10,000, invested 10,000, and I made 50,000." And like you try to figure out how did they make 50,000 in 3 years. When you look at the S&P 500, which is when they're talking about markets, the representation is the S&P 500. But then you look at the returns, annualized returns, like right now, the 1 year is about the 5 years about 13.57, but someone is telling you they've made 50,000. They had 10, they made 15. Like 1 plus 1 doesn't make sense. So I'm always like curious. And then the second thing too is the fact that the people that are even selling you don't understand the products very well. They're ignorant to them. So I just feel that's one of the selling points, because if you get someone, you can convince someone who doesn't understand, and that person turns around and convinces someone else who doesn't understand very well. But because it's me, we are from the same community, we're very trusting. I'm gonna believe that Annette is selling me something that is gonna work for me. So
Okay.
that's why I'm very, very like passionate. And to be clear, we're not bashing anyone. We're not saying any product is bad. What we are saying that we work so much to earn our money, and we put so much effort in earning that money. Can we put the same effort in learning where our money is going?
Okay. All right. So put effort in learning where your money is going, and you actually mentioned Annette there. We're actually going to come back to you and get onto those red flags that you're talking about. Like how does the average person identify a red flag that whatever this person is selling to me, they're my cousin, they are my like my churchmate, but whatever they're selling to me, there's certain red flags that even the person selling to you might not be aware of, but those are the ones we're going to come to talk about. I want to quickly go to Annette, introduce yourself again. Once again, Annette, you've been on the show before, and then I just want you to talk about what Wacheke was saying, and the susceptibility that our community has to such phantom products. Annette.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. As far as when it comes to certain products and who it's being marketed to, one thing that I have come to realize over time is that it's done on purpose. There are groups who are given certain opportunities, and then there are other groups which are given different opportunities. So there's a level where I would say, let's give our community some grace and understand that there are people who are out there who are bad actors, who are going out of their way to look for immigrant communities, looking for minority communities in order to sell these products. Because they know that the disenfranchised are probably the more likely people who want to get a leg up, because there's so many other factors that contribute to maybe our current status. But as far as being from an immigrant family and the ramifications of some of these products, and also just not having the financial literacy to be able to discern, that has an effect now for multiple generations. So the first people who came here to this country, the type of decisions that they made are going to actually affect the third and fourth generation.
Wow.
And that's where the financial literacy portion of it comes in, because it's very difficult to realize that when you decide, okay, I'm going to be a lifelong renter versus I'm going to be a homeowner, that has a huge impact on the experience that your children and those children's children, and then now your great grandkids, like it has a huge impact on all of those generations. And if we can have a little bit of a better understanding of the financial impacts intergenerationally, the legacy that we're leaving, then I believe that our community will be able to rise itself better, one family at a time.
Okay. All right. Now, very interesting, Annette. You talk about like people being vulnerable because they're first generation. I mean, you were raised here, and you're in a lot of contact with people who are first geners, people who came to the US as grown-ups. Is there some common mistakes, or maybe some common things that you see them doing that are not necessarily good, but it's kind of, like accepted within the community because somebody did it, or maybe it's because a certain trusted person brought this concept, so we all have to follow it. Is there maybe one or two things that maybe you've observed, Annette?
For sure. So what I would say is that when you are coming from a different place, we're in survival mode a lot of the time because there's a period of acclimation that is required. Even if you have a family member that is inviting you to come to the States in order for you to pursue whatever it is, whether it's a green card or you're here for education or you have a job pursuit, what happens is that there's a tendency to isolate. And when you're in an isolated community, you're not able to actually compare and contrast what's going on in other communities and see when you're being taken advantage of versus if you are actually being offered something that is substantive and is normal within the greater community. My experience here growing up in America involved a lot of knowing other Kenyans. But of course, that was a very, very small portion of the Baltimore community at large, which meant that I was not able to really compare what my peers were going through until I got to a point of independence. And that was like college age. At that point in time, that's when I was able to see that I have some peers who have a really full command of what it means to have credit. They had, some of them had investment properties that their parents had paid for them. Maybe they had their credit built by their parents. Maybe they knew that they had a nest egg somewhere after they graduated. That's when I was able to see. And the unfortunate thing is by that time, I'm feeling behind because my parents didn't know that and I didn't have the exposure. So the thing about being a part of these communities, one, it's super great because you have a wonderful support system. You're able to maintain your culture in a foreign land, and all of that is wonderful. Now, if you only isolate within that particular culture, and even within the country of Kenya, we have now subcultures, right? So this group only hangs out with this group, and that group only hangs out with that group. So when someone is struggling from two different groups, we're not able to compare and see why this struggle is happening and why it's happening to our specific community, and that doesn't give us the tools and the ability to rectify it. We understand that there are systematic things that oppress us, but instead of focusing on that, can we focus on how we can come together as a community to lift each other up? And I believe that we're in a prime position right now to actually do that in an effective way. The community is large enough that we can come together, that we can decide, these are the things these are the areas where we want to invest. And more importantly, this is what we want to teach our children. And also, this is how we are collectively going to invest in the next generation so that their generation has more economic power to actually put themselves within the economic system in a way that's super advantageous for them as individuals, but also the community at whole.
Okay, all right. That's very good. I hope parents you're paying attention. I want to welcome all the other listeners. I can see Afro Jamaican is here saying good evening all. Afro Jamaican, tell us your experience. Tell us your experience in Canada. Tell us your experience with Jamaicans in Canada. If people were being driven into these products that they did not necessarily know anything about. And then I also see Ashley Maingi, Karibu Sana, Sally Shiro Jones. Oh my goodness, that's such a long name, Sally Shiro Jones Minotis. I thought those were two names, but it seems like that's same name, same person. Please talk to us. Tell us what your experience has been. Drop a comment, let us know. And I think we also have a DJ Mosh Fire out there listening from an undisclosed location. DJ Mosh, Salimia the fans, and maybe just tell us what you think as far as your experiences have been in Kenyans or people within our community being susceptible to these products. DJ Mosh Fire, karibu sana.
Semeni mwanisikia mwanipokea.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Oh, excellent, good. When I first came to the US, the products or these offerings with these, I guess, I don't know if I call them get rich quick schemes, or should I say ways of reconnecting with home, or ways of having a financial connection with home, they were not there. It wasn't something that was there. And I would say this is something that has really been pushed more so I would venture really to say the last 10 years, there's been a huge push to the point where, you have things like diaspora banking, where you have Kenyan banks that are opening up for diaspora folks to invest, to bank with them, to the point where they even have agents who are stationed in different cities around, say, for instance, in the U.S. Um, and there's also the phenomena of, we always get testimonials from people who we know. So if you have a friend who has used a certain product or who claims that they know the person, then you tend to trust those folks. And sometimes you may not necessarily do due diligence to make sure that you follow up on things that are being, or the bag of goods that's being sold to you. For instance, if it's investment with a property, whereas, like, let's say hypothetically, if you're going to do it here, you do things like do a lands record search and things. But then if it's, coming through from somebody who is considered a trusted entity, especially from home, maybe it's a villager, a relative, a friend, or whatever the case may be, you tend to let your guard down, because this is huyu ni mtu wetu. This is, I guess, a clan member, or somebody from society. So now what's happened is, over the last 10 years, a lot of people have gotten, quote unquote, I'd say, burnt, to the point where now that, these things are being brought to you, it's almost like, to me, looking at it from the outside, it sounds like I feel like it's a cry wolf type situation, where you have all these folks coming and trying to sell you this bag of goods of things that you could do at home, but you're not going to trust them because of things that have either happened directly to you, somebody who you know, or things that could potentially happen, even if it's a legit thing that you could invest in. And something that we haven't touched on here, and I'm sure we're going to touch on in a little bit, is the difference is currency, in terms of the dollar fluctuation rate, dollar versus shilling,
Yes.
and how that affects, how your income comes in. We're making our money in dollars, but then you want to go invest in shillings. And once you have taken your dollars and transfer them into shillings, then at that point you're pretty much moot, because if you do the reverse, that money is not coming back here to help you, at least from my perspective. So folks sometimes should start looking at things that way, where it sounds good to do an investment, but does it make fiscal sense for you to actually take your hard-earned dollars from here, take them to Kenya, convert to shillings, and then now try to convert that same money or investment income or profit back into shillings to bring it back to dollars to bring it back here? Then that would really tell you whether whether that's the direction you need to go or not. Back to your studio.
Okay, thank you so much, Omosh Fine. I think that's a point that we're going to drill in, because today we want to talk about parents and children. Part of the conversation today is going to be about why parents should consider their children. Maybe not necessarily ask for their advice because they're children, but just consider their children whenever they're making decisions on where to invest, if they're making any major financial decisions, if they're purchasing any major assets, why the children have to be in mind. But I want to go back to Wacheke before we get onto that part of the children, where Wacheke wants you to talk to us about some red flags. Some red flags that people can try and detect when someone in the community is coming to sell a certain thing. They may not be verified. This could be a trusted person, but what are some red flags that people should look out for? You, of course, already talked about an exaggerated above market rate return. We know, the stock market, or maybe the index funds like the S&P 500 generally return an average of, around 10-11% every year. And then here you have someone who's promising you, like 100% return, or maybe is promising you, give me 10,000. Within 2 years, you're going to have 50,000. So an exaggerated return. That's one of the red flags you mentioned. What are the red flags that people need to look out for, Wacheke?
I think, Ali, before we go there, I want to add some of the to something that Annette said. The reason why, as Black people, as immigrants, we always fall for these schemes. If you look back, there's a wealth gap, a race wealth gap. If you compare Black people and other races, we are the bottom of the totem pole. And this is a legacy of slavery as well as systemic racism, which affects us even today. I mean, there are some point where banks would redline, where they would put a red line in an actual area and warn off mortgage lenders from lending money to Black people. So those are some of the things that really make us susceptible. We're still playing catch up when you compare to other races. So when someone says, hey, I have this thing that's gonna earn you, money, because you're trying to play catch up, you wanna have generational wealth because you don't have. Maybe you're the first person to own your home. Your parents, your parents or grandparents, great grandparents never owned a home. They either lived in the government housing or they've been renting. So, but now you're the first person to own a home, and you want to leave a legacy. You want to have several investment properties to leave a legacy. So when someone says, I have this idea, I have this thing that's gonna allow you to get extra income, so we don't think, because we're playing catch up. We're trying to fill the holes, holes that has been there for generations. The second thing is Black tax, and especially for African immigrants. I'll speak to African immigrant because that is my reality. That's my perspective. I know you very well. Most of us are supporting our families at home, whether it's our, siblings, our parents, even extended families. We're paying for their housing, school fees, healthcare. As much as, diaspora remittances are the highest forex exchange earners to Kenya, much of that money is not going to develop Kenya and, invest Kenya. No, much of that money is for basic needs, whether it's housing, food, healthcare, education. So that is why when someone comes to you and says, and I've actually been in several of these, meetings where that is a selling point. They tell you, I know you support your parents or you support your brothers and sisters. I have this thing that would really help you. You can earn an extra $500, and you're not gonna be sweating to support them. So when I hear that,
red flag.
I'm not even gonna think. Let alone the red flag. I'm not even gonna think twice, because you know what you have done. You have touched my emotions. Because as human beings, we make decisions based on emotions and justify them with logic. So you have touched my emotions, that emotional part of me. It's, I have to support my parents. I have to support my siblings, extended family. And this is a way I can do that. Annette has told me I can make $500 easily. I don't have to be too involved. I can still continue with my 9 to 5. So that's how we get into this. You're convinced and you go into there. Now going back to the red flags, like one of the biggest red flags that I always see is, someone comes to you and tells you, oh, join this Zoom. I have an idea, or I have a business idea, or there's a
Join
and they
Zoom.
don't tell you what product or service it is. They don't give you the company. To me, it's always a red flag. Or when they put it in a group and say DM me, like, to me, it's always a red flag. Like, if you think about all these products that are sold to us, whether it's commercials on social media or traditional media, the company stands there and says, this is what I'm selling. Company Z says, this is what I'm selling. This is the service I'm selling. This is how you can get a hold of us. This is our website. This is a brochure. Go there and you can learn more. But when someone tells me, DM me, I'm like, to me, that's always one, a red flag. Two, like if I have to join a Zoom and when I call you, you tell me no, that I have to speak to someone else, that's also a red flag. Like, why can't you, if you're the one that's involved in it, why can't you at least give me an idea? You might not know how to explain it to me, but you can give me an idea what it is, so I can prepare myself. I can research and see if it's something that would suit me.
So actually,
Another,
let's pause. Sorry, let's pause on that idea of join a Zoom, because I think that's a simple thing that the average person can detect. Like someone is selling you a product, but they're not telling you exactly what it is. They're not telling you the company. They're not giving you, like brochures or maybe a website to go, like review the product. But they're telling you just join a Zoom. You don't understand, just join the Zoom. When you join the Zoom, you will get to understand. So that in itself, you're saying that is something that people need to look out for.
yeah. So another thing is where they're convincing you go meet like other people. So like they want to gang you and influence you, like peer pressure. It's easy for you to say no to one person, but when there are 5 people
Mentors.
convincing you,
Mentors.
yeah, yes, this has happened to me, and I didn't even know. So I had just moved here, and I met this Kenyan, and like we're always excited when you meet a fellow Kenyan.
You're fresh off
And
the
then,
boat.
yeah. So and then I'm excited, and they invite me to their house, and then we go there, and then they tell me, "Hey, Ebu twende hapa, let's go here. Let's go. There's somewhere I want us to go, and I want you to meet some other people." I go there, and I found the leader of the chain there waiting for me.
Wow.
And they talked and talked and talked and talked, and then I was like, I always say, one of the things I always say, I don't have money right now. It's not in my budget. But let me tell you, they were ready with a credit application.
Wow.
For me to fill out. So that's another thing to look at. If someone is telling you, let's go meet people, it's like they want to force you. There's peer pressure. Like there's a gang that wants to force you to make a decision that you're not ready. If you feel pressure, that's a red flag.
Okay.
You should not feel pressure to do anything. It's financial decisions. So you need to weigh your pros and cons before you sign on the dotted line. So if you feel some sort of pressure, there's always a red flag.
Okay, pressure. And then there's a couple of comments that are coming in here. I can see, Afro Jamaican here says, I was very skeptical of get rich quick schemes. I trust but verify. And if I'm not sure, I only play with the money I can afford to lose. I think that's a very good philosophy.
And here on sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And then also Angie Decadence says, hello, I concur with Wacheke and Annette on normalizing financial literacy in our communities, especially with the advancement of technology. And then Afro-Jamaican father says, I show my kids my trading account and answer questions they have. Canada does not allow custodial trading account, but I'm investing for them, and I told them nothing comes easy. We also need to warn newcomers about credit cards. Now, Salishiro here says, haki na vile kuna 2 groups that has been recruiting me. They sent me Zoom links and credit application too. So here we already have someone who's already experiencing what Wacheke is talking about. Zoom links. Let's go up a Starbucks. You're gonna meet some mentors. Because and they target new people. Because I remember in my first job in the US, at Target, I had barely been in the country for 2 weeks. Because me, by the way, nilianza kazi right away when I came to this country. I'd barely been in the country for 2 weeks, and it's kind of like these people. It's kind of, because he targeted me, and then what they do is that anakuchocha, anakuambia, oh yeah, you sound so articulate.
Anakupaka mate.
Yeah.
You're getting lubricated.
Hey, maze saizo. I know. And saizo, you're new, you're vulnerable. You're like, Allah, kumbe yani,
it's like that,
kumbe 844 imenifikisha hapa. 844 imenifikisha hapa. So you're like, so yuko
this
juu.
cool kid situation is going to pay for
Yeah, so this person, and it was like a Muindi, not ethnic profiling, but it was an Indian guy.
Okay,
yeah, it was an Indian guy. So yeah, so to me, totally convinced me, because my first job, I think, was paying $7 an hour. And Appa, I'm like, yeah, it's like this opportunity, like there's lots of money to be made. So even me, I got entrapped in those, and they kind of know like who's new and who's kind of unfamiliar with these situations. Yeah, right now wakidiona on body language yangu wanapiga kona wanaenda ile side ingine.
They don't even cross the road.
No, they
to
don't.
see you.
They don't. But this is a very important aspect that we are talking about. And then Adhiambo says sounds like Primamerica. These are the people, that Muindi guy,
Providian.
Primamerica. These are the people who had approached me that many years ago. Yeah. So Zoom link, 20 Starbucks, ama, like, let's go meet some mentors. Red flag.
Do you remember Amway?
Amway too.
Okay, sawa.
Amway too. By the time Amway was coming my way, I was already experienced and I knew these things have a problem. But let's go back to Wacheke for some more.
Before that, let me read that. Welcome Nia Generational from the YouTube. Karibuni sana. She says very informative topic. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And always do your due diligence in researching the matter. A lot of these things function on people's hope and or desperation. And I guess that's fears. And I think that's what Wacheke was alluding to. Like if it tags to your emotion.
Yeah, your parents.
You can
help your
like,
parents.
Guy more than Jesus. So, and who is new and who is seasoned? That's what she's saying. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nia. Back to you, Wacheke, on the red flags. You're still talking about red flags.
On by the way, before she, there's that I was in a certain group, a Zoom, like a funeral group. But for some reason, it's like some guys had hacked. They ingia that WhatsApp group, and then they start posting those Bitcoin cryptocurrency joints
in a funeral group.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And we're like, how in the first place are these guys getting this? Because I don't think this thing has been some buzzword like that. But then again, it might have been some buzzword.
Yeah, that's why when you're in a group of more than 200 people, they can very easily, and out of those 200, maybe there's like 3-4 people who are gonna click that
numbers
link.
The numbers were 233 area code.
Look at that.
I'm profiling 233. Kaende. Hi, Wacheke.
All right, Wacheke. Red flags.
So another thing I've noticed is like there's right now there's efforts to increase financial literacy, financial awareness for different communities, especially disadvantaged communities like Black communities and immigrant communities. So a lot of these things are coming to us as financial awareness. So I always say when you see a seminar or you're invited to an event where they're talking about helping you understand finances, always look at who is sponsoring the event. If that company sells a product, just know you're going to be told, they're trying to sell you the product. They're not really going to give you information that will allow you to make informed decision. They'll just tell you what will allow them to sell you that product. So be very aware. If you want to know the genuine ones, it should be like a .gov or .org. And a lot of them, like if you go to your public library, if you go to like local churches, they have information. They're not affiliated to any companies. Some of them are, they get grants from the government. I would say, look at those before you go to anyone that's sponsored by a particular company that's selling a product, because more than likely, they're just trying to sell you that product. So any information they give you is geared towards convincing you that product is right for your financial life, even though they've not done an analysis to find out if it suits your financial goal and your risk profile.
So essentially, they have a solution and they'll create a problem for you that will fit the solution that they have.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So it's kind of like they have a product, and then it's kind of like a hammer salesman. All the problems will be nails. So I'm selling hammers. I come to your house and I tell you, you have a lot of nails that need hammering. So you buy these hammers, even though you don't necessarily need the hammer at that particular point. So that's actually pretty scary. So I've noted you've talked about seminars, because I'm trying to figure out things that people can easily identify. Zoom link, DM, come meet some mentors, or let's go for a seminar. It's too complicated for you to understand, but let's go to this seminar, then utaelewa. So red flag, red flag, red
those
flag.
you're saying, those are red flags.
Those are red flags.
Carido.
Those are red flags that you can quickly identify. And one other thing that I have also noticed is that some of the people selling these products, they may be good people, but they're also victims. Because one of the most effective ways of selling a product blindly to people is getting people those people trust, brainwash those people enough, make them believe that this product is actually important for you, then let them go out and sell it. Because if you go sell it, maybe people are gonna look at you as, no, that's suspicious. But if it's a trusted person, it's a cousin, it's someone you're going to worship with, it's someone, like sometimes they even target, like pastors, for example. These things are being sold in places of worship, unfortunately.
Evangelicals.
Where there's a lot of trust.
Am I profiling? Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, it's regular places of worship, and even these mega groups that people have. If someone knows the leader of the group, they know this is a trusted leader. They convince that leader, and it becomes easier to get those other people. And then I see here, Adhiambo says, no, I already read that comment. Akinya Doyo, karibu sana, says, Aki mimi nilijaribu kila kitu, Mungu ni mwema. Can you tell us what kila kitu is? Because we want people to learn, so that if someone is maybe walking in that path of kila kitu, they can understand that this is not the path to go. Back to you, Wacheke.
Going back to that is, churches, as Kenyans, we are very conservative and we respect our church leaders. So what I have noticed is a lot of the times there's people that are selling this. And one of the things I can remember was FEP, which was a development in Embu, I think, which was being sold to us in the diaspora. And like it was going to be golf course and some developments. And a lot of people lost money. And it was being sold like in churches, like
wow.
Religious leaders were convinced and they opened their places of worship for those people to come. And a lot of people would not have invested if it wasn't, they felt like it was endorsed by their pastors. So a lot of people made that mistakes and fell into it's a scam now. It's a scam because nothing happened. And I know people have been trying to fight and get their money back, but it hasn't gone anywhere. But that's also something to look out for. Just because your pastor says something is, you still have to do your due diligence. Your pastor could also be gullible too. You never know. So you always, just because Mama Ali, your friend, says this is very good, no, you have to go back and do your own due diligence. One thing I have a problem with is a lot of these things that are sold, they're sold like investment is one size fits all. No, it is not. Because investment depends on what your goals are. Let's say if you're investing for your kids to go to college, you don't want your kids to be stuck with college loans. So you're investing and your kids probably are starting middle school. So that's maybe they're in 8th grade. So you're going to need the money in 4 years or 5 years. You're not going to want something that's very, very aggressive. You want some sort of growth, but also capital preservation. Versus if you're investing for retirement and you're going to retire in 30 years, then you can afford to be aggressive because you have a long runway. But a lot of these things, I have attended, they never sit down and ask you what your goals are, what your financial goals that is. They don't sit down with you and see what your income is. How are you doing to protect your paycheck from Uncle Sam? Like reducing your tax burden. Are you investing in like saving in the vehicles that are available to you? That meaning like 401k or 304B if you're a teacher, or other savings plans that are available to you with your employer. They don't even. So that's why I have a problem with this. They don't sit down to get to know your financial life before they recommend a product to you.
Okay. All right. Wow. I don't even know where to go. The one last thing before we go to the next segment is one thing that I noticed. There's always these groups of people who always talk about urgency of joining the scheme. They usually give you like a hard deadline. Like if you don't do this by the end of tomorrow, then this
Get on the bottom floor.
Yes, this deal is gonna go. Red flag. And then we also have like this these groups of people that have so many testimonials. There's more testimonials than an explanation of what the product is, and they do these very elaborate videos and they show you people driving Ferraris and Maseratis and all this stuff, that's gonna get you thinking that this is where I want to be. Yeah. And then they do very slick videos.
Very slick. You heard about the guy who was doing that fire festival?
Fire festival.
Si aliwekwa ndani miaka 6.
Yes.
He has a new thing that's coming.
He has a new thing that's coming up, and apparently,
and you have to get in the bottom floor.
Yes.
Subscribe.
And apparently, people have already started buying tickets. Yet there's no date. There's no venue. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
But like right now,
allegedly, people have started booked. Or it's running.
That's what they're claiming.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, even despite what people know about Fire Festival, and that goes to show you the nature of human beings. And these are not necessarily uneducated people. These are people who are fully aware of what previously happened, but you still see people falling for these traps.
Fire was from Omosh Fire, but sorry, carry on.
Yes, these are my testimonials. Before we go back to Kina Omosh Fire, I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. Our guest tonight is financial literacy advocate Wacheke Ndirangu, and we are talking about red flags to look out for when trendy financial products are being sold to us. We also have our cultural ambassador, Annette Karanja, who's also a political activist. She's representing the second-gen voice of Kenyans in the U.S. on the One Mic Show. And we're about to get onto the conversation of parents, including their kids in financial decisions. But now, before we get onto that, Uno Mike, there was a beef, or I don't know that to call it a tweef, that's been trending between Kenyans and Tanzanians on who are the rap kings of East Africa. So maybe for those who are not familiar with this beef or tweef, what exactly was this about? How did it start, and where are we? Or maybe this is a question that should actually go to
this one should go to Omosh,
DJ Omosh Fire. Yeah.
But I know it had something to do with Calligraph putting out an ultimatum that TZ artists should put out some
muda wa masaa 24
24 hours.
Yeah.
They should put out something.
Yeah.
Otherwise itakuwa mlolongo ya itakuwa ngori. So unajua KOT wakiingia I don't think wameingia bado.
Yeah.
But I think Breeder has chomoa one. I'm yet to listen to it. Breeder amechomoa moja. Sijasikiza.
Rosare from Tanzania has also chomoa one in Calligraph's Kayole accent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she tried. Alijaribu. Your accent ya Kenya, it's hard to get it, but alijaribu, know, because Calligraph aliwaambia wa Tanzania atawashambulia kwa Kiswahili. Kwa hiyo Kiswahili, kwa Kiswahili atake kuingiza Kiingereza. Yeah. So yeah, so let Omosh Fire tell us something about that.
That's a shot also. That's a shot. Yeah. Fire Omosh. Wacha tusikie.
Why I say? You guys are very funny, guys. So we are touching on Calligraph and going after chaps.
Briefly.
So Calligraph, just the same way that he had done I guess he threatened to take over and become I guess I'll call it the king of rap or the best rapper that he claims to be in Kenya as well as in Nigeria, and so he has extended that invitation over now to Wabongo.
Yeah.
And he has basically gave them 24 hours and said, you guys need to release something. Otherwise, I will come down upon you with this my wrath and become the king of rap in
TZ.
In your domain. And Rosare toward that Rosare, if you hear
it's nice. It's nice. Okay. Yeah.
She and then the best part of it, Ali, was the end.
What did she say at the end?
Of the rap. The end of the rap ni kama alikuja kuna nika kulikuwa na she tusied him, but then it was unajua sasa ile Kiswahili yetu is that she used.
Yeah.
Just
I'm gonna go listen. I'm gonna take a second listen to it. But I think like Kali's original intent ilikuwa kuchangamsha Tanzania, because he was saying that he grew up to Tanzanian rap, and in all honesty, for those of us who've been listening to Bongo for a long time, there was a time period when like the Bongo scene had major rappers, and it was not only one, it was multiple people. If I could just mention a few: Professor J, Afande Sele, Solothang, Marehemu Mangwaya. There were quite a number, like there was alikuwa naitwaje yule ni Bwana Misosi. There were so many, so I think what Kali was trying to say, in an aggressive, in a Nairobian way, is that you guys were so good, but ni kama mmezembea, ni kama mmelala, kwa hivyo ondokeni kidogo.
Wake your ass up.
Yeah. Now we have our super producer in studio. Wacha tumpatie dakika moja mbili aseme what he thinks about that tweet, or is it a beef or whatever it is.
Iko sawa.
Iko sawa.
Iko sawa.
Imeamsha rap game Tanzania ama yani ni ama labda ilikuwa ni, unajua hata sijui niseme vipi, because Calligraph was actually, he mentioned actually Wasafi Media and other medias, and was telling them that you guys are not giving an opportunity to guys who are in the rap game right now.
Which I'm glad he did. I mean, it's true kwamba somehow rap has fallen off the radar, one. But two, I think they needed it, to be honest with you. They needed it.
Okay.
I don't think Calligraph really he's the best. Ukimweka pale, akienda kwa stage, they will knock him out.
Okay.
Kwa inategemea. Anybody kutoka Tanzania, I don't care. Hata angekuwa Mangwea. Akienda Kenya, atakuwa knocked out. Lakini I don't think Calligraph anaweza kafika Tanzania. Knock.
Okay. All right.
So and here's the thing.
Yeah.
Music.
Those are fighting words to
especially, especially kama Bongo Flavor. Even ndani Tanzania. Kama sio audience, like rap ya let's say Juma Nature na Inspector Harun ina audience tofauti na ya AY na Crazy GK na watu wengine. So really depends. I can guarantee you kwamba kuna sehemu unaweza kumpeleka Calligraph and no one person anaweza kaenda kwenye dance floor kwa sababu ya aina ya rap. Hata ndani ya Tanzania kuna rap audience, kuna rap cartoon, na inategemea unaimba kitu gani. So ukichukua watu kama Wagosi wa Kaya, wana audience ambayo huwezi kumweka mtu kama AY, ukaweka mtu kama Mwana FA akaweza kuimba na kuperform. Kwa hiyo it's true, really inategemea na audience. Kwenye radio it's not a good measure ya rap iko vipi, lakini reality ni kwamba Wasafi wameua rap.
Okay.
Kwa amesema hiyo, amesema kweli. Reality ni kwamba rap Tanzania inakufa. Unaona hata walikuwa wanafanya rap wakina Nay wa Mitego wamerudi kwenye singeli, wamerudi kwenye here and there wana drop rap, lakini hawapo. But of course watu kama wakina Rosary wameendelea kubaki katika rap na wanafanya vizuri.
Okay. All right.
So anachokisema Calligraph, I get it. Lakini kama watakwenda ndani ya Tanzania akasimama na Rosary na wanaopima ni mashabiki, he'll go nowhere. Ila alichokifanya kimeamsha. I'm glad he did that.
Okay. All right. Sawa. And then kuna ule kijana alikuwa anaitwaje, hii imetoka Breeder. Breeder. Kuna hii moja ametoa which was which was really hard hitting. Very interesting, but that's what's been happening, and that was just besides the point. Now back to our conversation.
Hold on. Near generation of a year says that he never heard about this rap beef. Oh, Nigeria will come for him. leave them out of the Twitter beef. Nia generation nilikwambia. They already tried to come for Calligraph.
Oh, Calligraph massacred the Nigerians.
And he did what he did best. He sliced and diced.
Near generational, when you get a chance after the one mic show, just what was the name of the song? It was Calligraph, best rapper in Nigeria.
Yes.
Was it best rapper in Nigeria?
I can't remember, but I know there's a guy that he suited.
A guy called Black Bones.
Yes, that one, Black Bones.
Yeah, and he
Look for it.
It was a massacre. Just look for that.
It was R.I.P.
Yeah,
Black
it was
Bones.
it was rest in peace, Black Bones.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's Calligraph Jones for you. But anyway, back to our conversation. DJ Tucha here says best rapper in Nigeria. Yeah, that was the name
of the song.
Of the song
diss track.
the diss track that Calligraph Jones did. And funny enough, like there was no Nigerian rapper who responded to that. I was expecting.
I haven't had anything.
I was expecting a response. Because Calligraph also did the same thing with the South Africans. The South Africans wakacheza chini. And in all honesty, Calligraph, yes, wanaongea sana, but he's a very talented rapper.
He's wordsmith.
Yeah, and the rate at which he can move between English and Sheng is almost unmatched. Is almost unmatched.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
and
anyway,
the Luo too.
Yes, and the Luo too. The Luo, he throws in 1-2 words there.
But he did one with the trap, the Luo trap king career, the rapper. Japesa.
Yeah,
he did one with
Japesa.
Japesa.
Yeah.
In the Luo, but
Yeah. But I've not had him, do one in the Luo, full. So
that would be nice, though.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Back to red flags and them.
Yeah, so I think we're done with red flags, but I want to come back to Wacheke. I was just a quick break. Wacheke, want you to talk to us and tell us why it is important to have your children in mind when making major financial decisions. We're talking about getting mortgages, investment decisions, like where you want to put your money, entrepreneurial decisions, opening businesses, and even decisions on acquisition of new assets, especially for those of us who are diasporans living here in the U.S., but also with an eye in the 254. Wacheke.
Okay, I think before I respond to that, there's something I think it's important on red flags that I believe we need to cover is on licensing. A lot of these products that are sold as get rich quick or one size fits all financial investment, if you look at the licensing they have, that will give you an idea whether it's the right path for you or not. Some of them, they have the very basic and there's really no oversight, meaning that the government is not really paying attention to what they're doing if their products are doing what they're claiming them to do. So I always say, for starters, is go sit down with a financial advisor. And nowadays they're fee-based, meaning they charge you a percentage based on your assets, not on how much you're trading. And you can actually check out the credibility of that financial advisor. There's a website, it's called FINRA Broker Check. So FINRA is a financial industry oversight. So it looks at each individual, like, if a client reports that they stole money from them or they recommended a product that did not suit them, it's on that website. So you can go and see that aliuza hii na ilikuwa uongo. It's there for everybody to see. So I always say, if look at licensing, if they have the very basic, you need to do a lot of due diligence to make sure that they're actually recommending something that suits to you. And second, go sit with a licensed financial advisor before you commit to talking to them, even if it's just one sitting. Look up their credibility on FINRA Broker Check. I will send the link and it can be posted here. Look at their, see if there have been any complaints, if they've ever been fined, if that person has been banned from the industry, or any penalties that have been assessed to that person. That's what I always tell people. And you'll be surprised. A lot of the companies, one of the benefits they provide people is the ability to speak to a licensed financial advisor. That person will sit down with you, look at how much you earn, what your bills are. Do you have an emergency fund? are you putting enough in your retirement? If you're in a high deductible healthcare plan, are you putting money in the HSA healthcare savings account, which actually reduces your taxable income? Like, he will look at your whole thing before he recommends what you can invest in based on one, your income, your goals, and your risk profile. So if someone is not doing all that with you and just is recommending a product that you go buy and they haven't done all that with you, I would think twice. I would say, you need to do more due diligence and figure out if this is something that really suits you or not.
Okay. All right. Good. So check the licensing. Like if this is a person who's not licensed to sell whatever they're saying, or whatever they're selling does not require a license, red flag. So just a couple of things to have in mind before committing to something that someone is selling. So back to our children. Why is it important to have your children in mind when making major financial decisions? We are talking about buying homes, acquiring mortgages, investment decisions, and even decisions on acquisitions of new assets, especially for those of us who live in the diaspora but still have an eye in Kenya. Wacheke.
So I think it goes back to what we're discussing today. We're talking about financial literacy. You're not going to wait when your kids are adults to teach them financial literacy. So it starts when they're very young. And some of the things that you can do, which this is what I have done with my own child. When we go grocery shopping, the minute she was able to understand numbers and the relationship of numbers, she will go see it. This one is, this fruit is $20 or $3 a pound. The other one is $4 a pound, and it's the same thing. Maybe one is a store brand, the other one is another high value brand, but it's the same and the quality is the same. Then we pick the cheaper one. That is how you teach them about finances, like when they're very, very young. Because kids learn like by doing. You're not gonna sit down one day and then give them all this advice. But if you do day by day, those are the simple things. Another thing that I have done is thrifting. Like I love shopping. I love high quality things, but the Kikuyu in me will not let me spend $1,000 to buy one dress. So I go to 3 stores. I go to consignment stores, and I have told my daughter from when she was very young, I would show her, if we go to a big box store like Walmart, $20 will only garner you like one toy. But if we go to a consignment store or thrift store, that $20 you can have 10 things, and they're good quality. Probably the kid only used once or twice. So that's how they start learning. You can find value for your money. Those are just the simple steps. Also, one way I explained saving when she was 3, I used the analogy of hibernation, how bears hibernate. I told her, human beings hibernate too. Our hibernation is retirement. But unlike bears who have, all the fat stored in their bodies to use when they're in hibernation, we don't have that capability. So for us to prepare hibernation is that we have to save. So if when you get $100, from grandma or your uncle for your birthday, don't spend the whole $100 in, one go. You can spend 80 or spend 50 and keep that 50. Like now, when she gets money, she doesn't want to spend her money. She says, no, when we go to the store, she wants to spend my money. She doesn't want to spend her money because I had taught her that value. And, sometimes we think kids don't see or understand, but they see and understand more than we think they do.
Yes.
So those are just a few things that you can do to start teaching your children the value of money. Another thing is like our society and generation is more about instant gratification. Like, hey, you see something, you want it today. No, like I think we should start showing our children, like if I want that iPhone, Like I have to save for it. Come to me with a plan. Like I'm gonna be doing laundry or chores in the house, and then that's how I'm gonna earn my money. You know, now that I note that I need that iPhone and tomorrow we're gonna go buy it. So let's teach our children delayed gratification, because otherwise we're gonna be caught up in this society where it's very materialistic. We're always buying things that we don't even need, and then the next minute they're out by the curbside, we're throwing them away because we don't need them. Or clothes, we're buying all this fast fashion, and we only wear them for one season and they're trash. So it's also sustainable. It's also good for the environment. And as Annette is saying, kids, they learn by seeing. And if you involve them in everything, if they feel like they're part of the decisions that are being made at home, they're more likely to follow that, and it's gonna stick with them. When they become adults, they'll have the same values, and they'll have the same lessons.
Okay, all right. So very interesting take there. And I see, like there was a couple of comments coming on the Zoom side from Annette. And I just want to come to you, Annette, right now. You've been quiet for a while there. And I want to know, especially what you think, having been a child who grew up here and had the opportunity to see, like how maybe the grown-ups that you were around were spending at that time. Why, or maybe do you feel like it's important, like when adults are making major financial decisions, to have their children in mind? Annette.
So I've had the experience of hanging first generation Americans, those who have come here as an adult, and they also have children at the same time. And so I've had the experience of seeing people in survival mode. I've also had the experience of seeing people, once they have had the opportunity to have some sort of financial advantage, what it is that they choose to do for their children. And all of those experiences are important because it tells us a little bit about the psychology of money. And with that, I think that sometimes it's like transitioning from a lack mindset to a having mindset is not always healthy, right? Because from survival mode to having, you might want to spoil children, you might want to provide certain things. Like my younger siblings had like the PlayStations, the newest one that happened, the newest ones that came out, but there was not a financial learning opportunity that was taken in that, because for them, they were celebrating, and they should have celebrated. They were able to do so much. And I don't know if you hear my child in the background, like this is a person who's very privileged because they have technology, they have things that cost a substantial amount of money for them to be able to have those things. And so there is a level of privilege that occurs because we are not in the survival mode that existed for my parents. Now, the problem comes then, while they're celebrating and while they're providing those things for them, are we actually giving the lessons that are necessary? Like, hey, there was a time when I came to this country, I didn't know where I was going to live, and this is what I did, and this is what the transition is. And this is the importance of history, because if you understand the history of where your parents got to where they are, then maybe you might have a little bit of caution and not feel as privileged and realize that what you have was given to you, right? So I was given the opportunity to decide where it is that I'm going to work for my first job, whereas my parents did not have that choice, right? There's a psychological component, there's a financial component, and there's also a component whereby I'm comparing this to the peers that I go to school with. So I have peers who are not concerned about where they're going to live because they live in a house that their grandparents bought, and maybe they inherited that, and me as coming from an immigrant background, I understand I'm not inheriting land in America. And if there's land that I'm inheriting in Kenya, my parents have the responsibility of actually explaining to me what that means. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity in the future to kind of, within this conversation, to talk about estate planning and what that really, really means for the individuals. But that's really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is it that we gain from what our parents had experienced here in the diaspora. And for those of us who have parents who invested back home while they were trying to build here in the States, but they were building back home, or maybe they had parents who give them something, they have an inheritance. Can we talk about what does that mean for the next generation? What does that inheritance mean? What is the estate planning for those assets to actually be transitioned from one generation to another? That does not require me to go to court, because in the United States, it's probate court, and that's very costly. And at the end of it, you end up paying the government before you've even gotten anything yourself. And in Kenya, I know there's some similar situations where maybe family members are suing each other because things are not in writing. And that becomes the next state, I guess the next level of all of this conversation we're having.
Yeah, now Annette, you've touched a hornet's nest. And the reason why I'm saying you've touched a hornet's nest is I personally believe or feel like a lot of parents here in the US who have a high portion of their net worth invested in Kenya. I think this is something, like when we talk about estate planning or succession, if they have businesses or entrepreneurship back in Kenya, this is something that I think has not been thought through. And this is where, in my own view, I feel like there should be, like, parents should have their children in mind, in every major financial decision they make. Doesn't matter how young they are. Like 5 years old.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In the United States, the statement is, as soon as your child gets a Social Security number. So for those of you who may not have given birth here in the United States, you give birth, you report to the Department of Health, and then 2 to 3 weeks later, you get a Social Security number, right? And there's a saying, as soon as my child gets their Social Security number, because you need that to register for certain financial products, they get a, number 1, life insurance policy. Number 2, they start investing in investment products that they're able to do and I'm not going to talk about those investment products because that's not my area of expertise, but I can tell you that there are investment products that you can start investing in children the moment that you have a Social Security number. And the reason why this is important is because we have to understand, in the context of the country that we are in the United States, there are systems in place and there are things that individuals are doing in order to set their children up for success. And we no longer have the excuse that we do not know, because we've been here for a couple of decades. That excuse does not exist anymore. So the moment my children are born, they have a Social Security number. One of the first things they have is a life insurance policy. Conversation for another day, but that's one thing that is actually an investment product, in a sense, and it's a wealth transfer product, which I can say very confidently as a licensed insurance agent. But additionally, we're thinking about credit. We're thinking about how can we include them as the beneficiaries of our 401ks. A lot of people have 401k because they're working for a company that provides that option for them. Who is going to benefit from that if something were to happen to you? Estate planning is very important. Now, when you go and many people have experienced this where someone passes, unfortunately, it's sudden, it's something that we have not planned for. And now a mother is suing the son because who gets the land when the father has died, when the husband has died? That's land back home in Kenya. Even here in the States, who inherits, because you can transfer your 401k, you actually can decide who gets the distributions. So there might be something, and what we call it in the United States is probate court. Probate court is very costly. So let's say that we're talking about $100,000, which is not actually a lot of money. Let's say you've worked for 20 years for a company and you have $100,000 somewhere, and maybe it's the wife, maybe whatever the partner is, or and two children. By the time you fight in court, you might be fighting about $5,000. You spent $95,000 fighting it in court. If you have an estate plan, if you've talked to a lawyer, lawyers are very important. People tend to talk about them as if they're like this expense that is unnecessary. Lawyers can be very important to help you with some of these things. If you have an estate plan that is in place, then you can avoid all of the probate fees. You can avoid the lawyer fees and all of that. You know who gets the house? How is the house being split? If all of the kids are getting the house and they have to sell it and they have to split it, and it's lined up and all of that stuff, you are actually saving your family a lot of emotional stress as well as the financial component by doing those things.
Yes, and I think one area where like we've had plans of having like some experts here in studio is estate planning, both from the American side and also on the Kenyan side, because I mean, we're not here to maybe advise people or tell people invest here or don't invest here, but I think you must know the pros and cons, like especially from your children's perspective. You have to think about yourself, or you have to think about what happens if I die tomorrow. What happens to my minor children? That's what you have to think. And of course, if you have assets that are far out, like in Kenya, for example, the degree of difficulty increases for them because they don't know how to maneuver in Kenya. It's more difficult for them to maneuver there, even if you have a lawyer there. So those are the things that I think that people need to have in mind. And I think, like we do have some people, like who are tuned in here, who are familiar with life insurance, familiar with estate planning and all that, because that becomes very critical. Like when something happens, you have to think, even when you go to an insurance agent, because sometimes, like for me personally, I tend to look, and not in a bad way, but to me, any person who I'm going to purchase a financial product from, I have to tell myself that this person does not know me as much as I know me. So whatever recommendation they give, you're the one who knows, like, if I were to die tomorrow, what happens to my daughter? What happens to my son? What happens to my spouse? Like, I think actually before going to any insurance agent, any life insurance agent, I think these are questions that you want to answer yourself first before looking into the products, because these products sometimes can be confusing. You'll be introduced to acronyms like DIME. Like for me personally, DIME is debt, income, mortgage, and education. Yeah, for me personally, and this is not for everyone, to me, the E part, education, that's not an emergency, but that's what will be sold to you. So if you feel education is an emergency, then that's fine. But you have to sit and think in your mind, like, when I die, what happens in especially the immediate time, the immediate 2 years, the immediate 3 years after you die, because those are the most critical times when a family can even fall apart if things are not placed right. So when you think in those terms, then I think, you're in a better position to make an informed decision based on a recommendation that an insurance agent will give you. I want to go back to Wacheke on this same topic, because Wacheke has also had the experience of going back to Kenya, like trying to live in Kenya and then coming back again in the US. So Wacheke has details, intricate details of what it means, like maybe to move, or even to run a business, or to do something out there while you still had your life anchored here in the US. So I'd like to know, Wacheke, I'd like to know your take on what you think in situations where you have parents here who are living here in the US, they have kids here in the United States, but a significant portion of their net worth is out in Kenya. Wacheke.
This is my take. I think a lot of those assets are going to benefit other people other than your kids, because one, in Kenya right now, to be able to do any transaction involving any assets, property, you have to have a PIN number, you have to have an ID. I mean, like most of our kids here, they don't even have Kenyan ID, they don't even have Kenyan citizenship. Yes, they can become, because we are Kenyan citizens, but we haven't even processed that for them. And now we're investing in Kenya, but when we invest in Kenya, we don't even think about that. That's anything can happen tomorrow, and you've invested in Kenya. How are my kids going to access those properties in Kenya? For me, because I've had to go through the process of succession. I mean, you guys know my story. My mom, the reason I had moved back to Kenya is to be with my mom, who had a terminal illness, and I was there the last few years of her life. And I have gone through the succession process in Kenya, and it's not easy. Can you imagine? At least for me, I had someone who, my sibling lives there, so he knows the system very well. So can you imagine, for me, I found it very hard, and even for him, and he's someone who has lived there and worked there. So can you imagine, it's our kids who don't even understand the Kenyan system, and we haven't prepared them. They don't even know what you're doing in Kenya. You're building homes, buying flats, you run Airbnbs in Kenya, but they're not aware of all these things. What is going to happen is other people are going to benefit. And unfortunately, this happens, and it doesn't just happen to Kenyans that are living in diaspora. It also happens to Kenyans living in Kenya. You find that a parent, and this happens mainly with men, you find the father has properties, businesses he had with, friends, colleagues out there, and his wife is not even aware of them. And then he passes suddenly. Guess what? Because the wife wasn't aware, and those people he was in partnership are people of no integrity. They don't let the spouse know, or the kids know that, hey, this is something, and your dad has passed away, but your share now, you can benefit from it. And as we know, our country is very corrupt. They just go and change it. You never know. And this is something that has happened to us. So unfortunately, what I have seen, and from my own personal experience, we're not factoring into that when we're investing in Kenya, and our kids are not going to benefit. Other people are going to benefit. Just like the same way when we leave money in Kenyan banks, when those banks know that we're in diaspora, we're not accessing them. There's a situation where people have gone home and they found their accounts are zero. Someone has accessed their accounts without their knowledge and taken the money away. So we have to start putting measures in place to make sure, like, if you're investing in Kenya, do your kids know? Are your kids going to benefit? Are they even interested? Because we have that attachment with Kenya, but our kids, most of our kids do not have that attachment. Yes, they know they're Kenyans, they go there, they go to Masai Mara, they go to Mombasa, but they don't have the same attachment. So for me, what I have decided to focus here in America, where I am, where my child is, where she understands, even as much as I am teaching her, and helping her have ties in Kenya. I'm focusing here because, from my own experience, it's easier to go through the process of probate here, even if you don't have a will, versus the process in Kenya. Like, Kenya is so frustrating. The court system, the judges, even your own siblings will frustrate you, bribe the court, bribe your own lawyer, and you just get and they know, because you're in diaspora, you don't have the time to go to court every day. So they will just keep delaying, pushing forward the case until you get tired. You have to come back to America and come to work. So for me, I just feel like, for my own sanity, because I have gone through the process of, estate. I'd rather deal with here in America. When and if I decide to go back to Kenya, at that point I can liquidate something and go deal with it then. But to me, I feel like it will be easier for my child to deal with the systems here. That's my take. That's what I have seen.
Yeah, I mean, this is very personal because, of course, a lot of us are still emotionally attached to Kenya, and there's a lot of major investments that people have in Kenya. I'm not just talking about just an apartment unit. I know people who have buildings. I know people who have, like very large tracts of land where they're doing large scale farming. I know people who have businesses. And Wacheke brought up the fact that your children may not be interested in those businesses. They may not be interested in following them. So those are things. And with businesses, even a business here, your children may not be interested. So I think those are important things to pay attention to and have a plan. Even when you know your kids are not interested, just have a plan of what's going to happen in case something. And I see some comments here coming on YouTube from Near Generational. Nia says estate planning negates conflict because they have to abide by the directions in the planning. And then she says, on my American side, my deceased mother purchased a paid up life insurance policy when I was a child. Never too early or too late to prepare. And then she further says, these things must be discussed no matter how uncomfortable. This is very important. This thing of someone dying and then finding out that they had a whole estate somewhere.
Story for another day.
And the spouse did not know, the kids did not know, and then now you're fighting for something that you never even knew existed in the first place.
But I think and I think this is where I think we've talked about this. I think I've mentioned this. I think, like now, for example, you find out, let's say, I'm just giving an example, but, someone like Patrick Mahomes, his dad was a football guy, was a baseball player. When you look at most of these guys, most of these athletes, either their father was somewhere in sports, was doing sports, was introduced to sports at a tender age.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, you could call it succession. Part of the reason sometimes you find that businesses fail, even in Kenya especially, is that I don't think there's any
succession plan, a proper succession
there
plan.
Isn't.
Yeah.
On, let's say, the Kikuyu side or the Luo side, whatever.
Tuskys is
but
an example.
like now, for
Tuskys
example,
supermarket is an example.
perfect example.
Yeah.
And I think I've mentioned this before. Like sometimes, like when we'd go to buy school uniforms.
Yeah.
When you go to uniform Apo Karibu Sports in Nairobi, chances are the person who's gonna sell to you, you find a kid there.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe participating or going and getting what you asked for or whatever. But that is sort of, I'm gonna use this word, grooming. You're prepping your child. Because this is ini biashara, right? So you could probably instill something in him, maybe to be a business person. Like sit down and
So bring them in early.
Bring them in very early.
Okay.
Very early.
Yeah.
So like even and this goes back to even what we've been saying. Like maybe we are doing these things and maybe our children are not interested. But we probably have not presented to them what is going on, what the plan is.
Like what Indians do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? We don't bring them in.
You'll find a small kid, 7 years old, in a spare part shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like here you find, you're fixing your car, or if you're handy, the jungo over there has the toy over there, holding a spanner. Or if you're an electrician, you find that, the toy is probably carrying cables, right? And a soma. So by the time, this kid is a teenager, is already invested, he's starting early. Same thing with financial literacy, we've been saying. You start early. Like what Wacheke said, like when she goes with the daughter, like, hey, don't spend all your money. Spend, if it's $100, spend, maybe that, save 70. However it is. But you start early. So whatever it is, I think when you involve the kids, no matter what it is, if you're, and I think even Kaiser talked about mentioned how he shows his kids like his trading account. Because you cannot have a trading account in Canada for children, but just showing them that
This
at
is
an
how
early
it
age,
works. This is how much I have.
this is investing in them. When they know that you have a plot of land or whatever, you're a farmer. You can't be saying you have a farmer, but here you're chopping doubles. How is that going? How is that going to help even the toy? Like you can't be saying that I want you to carry out, I have this farm or whatever, but all you're doing is just chopping doubles and triples. The kid has never seen a farm, has never been there, doesn't know how it runs.
And you're like, you have 100 acres.
Yes. So okay, and what am I supposed?
Nakuru.
Like wow, but you have to. It's like you hold the hand, unapeleka mtoto unamuonesha.
Alternatively, unamwambia niko na beach froti.
Lakini
Malindi.
Nadore wadhi.
Wacheke.
I think that goes back to what Annette was saying is when we move from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset is we find like our parents, they struggled, and then when they have kids, they only want to show them the good things. Like they don't show them where those good things come from. I think that's where Africans fail when you compare to Asians. Asians, they live a privileged life. You know, they're wealthier than most, like Kenyans. I mean, the small number. But even with their privilege, the kid knows where that money comes from. Like Ali said, you will go there, you'll find a 7-year-old or a teenager. Ametoka shule akona uniform, ako hapo. He's learning this is where the money comes from. And guess what? A lot of them, like a lot of those small businesses, like one I can remember, Chandarana supermarket, it was very small. It was only 2. When I knew there were only 2 branches. One was in Yaya Center and another one, I think it was High Ridge. I'm not very sure, but there were only 2. Right now they have branches all over Kenya, and and it's because of their succession planning involving their kids. Even if the kids do not want to be directly involved, is making sure they get people in place that can make sure the business is going to continue. If the business continues, the kids are still going to benefit. They're going to be shareholders. So I think that's where we fail. We want to celebrate. We want to buy our kids the latest fashion, the latest gadgets, but we don't show them where those gadgets come from. Like if we show them, they'll be interested even diversifying and growing that small business. By the time it's 2nd and 3rd generation, it's gonna be like the Walmart. But that's where we fail. We don't do that. We just want to protect them and just show them the good things. That's where we are failing. Okay,
and Omosh has been silent there. We're going to get to Omosh shortly, but a quick comment here. Very important question coming from Luis Muya. Luis Muya is asking you, Wacheke, what is the typical cost of a financial plan from an advisor? And reason I'm asking this is because many people have the notion that it is very expensive, therefore shy away from engaging one. A good portion also believes a financial advisor is the preserve of the wealthy. Also, does a person engage a financial advisor only when ready to invest, follow the plan, or can he engage one just to gauge one's financial health and options available? This is a very good question coming from Luis Muya. I'm going to let you answer this, Wacheke, and then we're going to go to DJ Omosh Fire. So, Wacheke, what?
The time you engage a financial advisor is there when your first job is when you engage a financial advisor. Because you know why? That financial advisor is going to set you up for success. So that's when you're going to learn how to avoid giving Uncle Sam everything, so you're gonna reduce your taxable income, how you can start, saving for retirement. Because if you, let's say you start working when you're 23, and you start saving, by the time you're retiring, and if you're consistent in your saving and investing, even like the basics, like within a 401k and you invest in index fund, by the time you're retiring, you know, like 40 or 50, you could probably be a millionaire depending on if you're very diligent and consistent. So I always say the minute you start working is when you should sit down with a financial planner, because you're gonna learn a lot of things. And financial plans, they vary depending on the complexity of you as an individual. You know, they're very expensive plans for very wealthy people that have like stock options like CEO and whatnot. But for regular folks like us, there's even financial plans for 200, 300, 500, and things have become better now with, you know, with technology has enabled the financial plans to become cheaper. So I always say, like, first check with your, you know, like your benefits package. Does it come with a financial plan? Because I've seen a lot of employers, they have subsidized financial plans. If there's a company, if you go there and you're an employee of that specific plan, you are able to access a financial advisor at a lower cost. That's part of the benefit of working there. So I always say start there, and then, like I said, before you engage one, they, you know, check funeral broker, check. Ali, I sent you the link. Make sure that person is credible. I'm not sure what the other question was.
No, the other question was, does a person engage a financial advisor only when ready to invest or follow a plan, or but you already answered that. So the other question was, what is the typical cost of a financial plan from an advisor? And then, because there's a notion that it's a very expensive affair only for rich people.
No, it is not. It's sorry, that's my Alexa reminding me. So financial plans, they're available to, you know, like everyone. They vary depending on the complexity of your financial situation, your goals, but they're very cheap nowadays. Because there are people are leveraging technology, they're able to you know, use technology to make those calculations now. Like before, they've become cheaper. I'm, you know, like, I'm not sure, but I have seen plans that vary between like 300 to, you know, to 1200, and that's cheap, because to me, I consider even 1500 cheap, because you're gonna avoid a lot of the mistakes. Because like I have sat down with a, you know, years ago, like over 10 years ago, like sat down and looked at, you know, this is how much you make, this is how much you're bringing home. Okay, do you have a emergency fund? This is how much you need to save in your emergency fund. Okay, this is how much protection you need based on your family dynamics. Or this is how you can do you're planning to buy a home in the next 5 years. This is what we can do to build your credit and to save money. Or these are the programs available for you to access down payment assistance and whatnot. So when you sit with a financial planner who's knowledgeable, you're able to avoid a lot of the mistakes, because that person is knowledgeable. And include your kids. Like, I'm very, very candid. I've been very candid with my daughter about everything, including death. She knows everything. I sometimes we spare our kids, but it ends up hurting them. So I've been very candid. There's nothing she doesn't know. I always tell her the privilege she has is because of, you know, what I do, the steps I make, that if you want to have the privileged life as an adult, you have to be better than me. You have to do what I'm doing, but be better. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And you have to show them by example. You cannot, you know, you cannot tell them to drink water and you're drinking wine. You have to show them by example, and, you know, step by step, and let them know. Like, if something happens, like a lot of people lost jobs during COVID, and they had to, you know, reduce their expenditure. That is the time you involve your kids. You know, come with your kids and say, these are the things we're spending. We have cable, we have Netflix, we have whatnot. What can we take away from this? Because we cannot sustain this with unemployment. What can we take away from this monthly? Let them decide. mean, if you show your kids, even if you're struggling, there's a way you can show your kids you're struggling that is not going to affect them, that can actually give them hope that it's going to be okay. But if you're stressed, always telling them, no, 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 there's no money, but you're not actually showing them, this is what I'm doing. Like you scar them. But when you show them, okay, this is what has happened, I'm only getting 40% because I'm on unemployment, so cable has to go, but we can still keep Netflix, or we eat out, once a week, that has to go, or we can do once a month. And I always say, this is what I have done. I have shown my daughter is creating experiences. So for instance, one of the things we do, like now she understands, instead of having that big birthday party that it's not even for kids. It's the way we do birthday party as Kenyans is never even for kids.
Wacha kuchoma wewe. Unachoma.
It's for us. We come, we party. Even the people that come, they're drinking whatnot. They don't even, some of them don't even come with a gift or even know who's the child who's celebrating.
The gift
so
is
for
a gift
us,
card.
like what my daughter prefers now experiences. She prefers to go on vacation. She prefers to go somewhere. So what we do is we'll just buy pizza and cake and take it to class. Her classmates will sing a happy birthday. Na yo imeisha. If I spend a lot, it's probably $50. That's it. Like that's 1,000 I would have spent entertaining people. We go to somewhere. We go to Maldives or Mexico or what have you. Creating experiences. That is what I've taught her, is about quality, not quantity, and creating experiences versus accumulating material things that don't even matter.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. That's that's quite a bit to digest there. And Near Generational here is further commenting and saying, let me see. In America, even if you don't leave a will, I think we already read that.
No, it's in America. Even if you don't leave a will, it will go to the laws.
Or it will go to the laws
of
of resident. And the state will usually try to find the nearest relatives. And this is usually not good. Like each state has their own, like succession laws. This is usually not good. You'd rather have, your own plan in the way you want it before it goes here. And then I think she also says this is what Wazungus who own wealth do as well. I was told a long time ago, since black people don't own generational wealth, they don't think about it at times. But Wazungus educate their children. And then about financial literacy and how to manage the family generational wealth. Also, things are changing and people are more and more aware. So, want to go to Omosh Fire. Omosh Fire, you've been silently listening. Just give us your take. Tell us what you think.
Why I say? And he's on the mute.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's like there's a password to unmute oneself. Okay, all right.
Is there?
O-R-E-R-A-E-O-O.
Okay.
Maze, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. And we
Okay,
can
sorry.
see your big fingers.
Man, this location, I think the fish have been eating the signal. Yeah. So, Sheka, don't say nothing. I planned my estate, but clearly somebody did not plan it correctly for me. It's been interesting, the angle that we've been looking at this stuff, especially with the kids, and they're the ones who we always, what's the right word? We don't do justice for them. And I'm not sure if it's because of the way we were brought up, where, as a child, you are there to be seen and not to be heard. So you don't tend to think of them. And then these little, I was going to say, what's the right word? These little gentlemen and ladies that we are now bringing up, they're like, by the time they're like 5 years old, they're grown. you're basically having a conversation back and forth. They know, money things, somebody knows about a bank account. They know about, like even costs of milk and things like that. So you can't say that you want to have financial literacy without being inclusive or including them. And things that our parents would never ever have told us, like the way, I'll use the example of death. It may sound a little bit gaudy, but it's something we never discussed, but we all knew that it happened. And even when it happened, growing up, at least my generation, it's like you are shielded. Nobody really wanted you as a child to deal with that scenario, But nowadays, I see the parents now, when unfortunately there's a death in the society, they come with the kids, and the kids come to the service. Sometimes they'll even come up to the to the wake, to and bid farewell. And it's no longer, quote unquote, being shunned as this thing of that, you don't involve kids in that, you hide the kids. So the same way that we are doing these things of being inclusive, we definitely have to be inclusive with the kids. And more so, especially growing up or raising kids in America, you have to figure a way out that you're going to have these kids raised in America, if that's, wherever it is that you're residing, but make sure that it's the rule of law or play for that place where you are, not our emotional connection or ties with the motherland, because that's not making sense, And I know I had brought it up earlier, but I didn't hear us touching on it. But the difference between currency, that whole currency thing, how you earn your money versus how you're spending it, and then expecting to get returns or ROI based upon money that has changed hands and you've had to convert it. I didn't hear us touch on that at all. But Ali, I know maybe you might have kidogo snippet uingishe or kidogo, but it's something that we cannot run away from. And in as much as we want to invest at home, we really, really have to sit back and say, well, does it make sense from my pocket? Overall for me, again, like I say, we have to involve the kids, and we have to involve them early, have those conversations, teach them how to behave with money. And I think with them having understanding of that, it even makes it easier, when kids even make a request and say, okay, this is what I want for Christmas. They take those things into consideration because they now have more of an understanding of how money is brought in and thus how it gets spent. And they don't become these, I was going to say, runaway crazy kids that we're raising for society to go out and condemn, for lack of a better word. Back to you, studio.
Oh, thank you so much, Amosh. Now, you also bring another hot potato, or however you pronounce potato. Yeah,
Potato.
It's a hot button issue. The exchange rate fluctuation. That is the big giant in the room that's hidden in plain sight that people choose to ignore.
And Ali, sorry to cut you off. If we just simply think of this as when we send money home, the way, and hopefully people do it the way I do. I always look at all the various apps and look at who gives me the most return.
Rate. Yeah.
Or should I say the best rate for my money. Now, there's also something that I also do not factor in there, and what ends up happening with it is that, and then it becomes a problem, is that reliability.
Yes.
And that is a huge thing, because I could be getting the best rate, but it's not a reliable source or a reliable format.
Yes, and we have experience with unreliability.
Bruh, to the point where now you can tell people, please go and use, and I'm not going to give names because nobody's paying me, but you tell people, please go use, a new product, right? And this new product is also giving you the best rate, but it's not reliable.
There's no guarantee.
The fact that it's not reliable, when somebody is sitting, at, I don't know, Kenyatta, and you have to send that money so that they can be taken to theater, no one is going to use them.
No.
In as much as, as much as we may sing and we may say, okay, this, that, and the other, the people be like, nope, I'd rather still get, my 135 rate and know it's going to get there than your rate of 142, and literally somebody will tell you, I will omit that 7 to 8 shillings because I know that this is a trusted, and they will not move. In fact, they won't even download the apps.
Yeah. I mean, reliability is key to everything, and we have experience. I'm one of those people who's not loyal to a brand, and I'm a price chaser, especially when it comes to issues of sending money back home. But I think all of us as a group here, we've learned the tough way. There's quite a number of reliable sources of sending money back home. So I think you need to be doing your comparisons amongst those reliable sources. Constantly check.
Correct.
Think of it as Uber and Lyft. Before going somewhere, this is another hack. You have both the Uber and Lyft app. Sometimes the difference is so big, and people just don't do that extra step of checking. But back to the issue about exchange rates, when we're talking about decisions on including our children in our financial plans. So while we're doing that, we also have to factor in exchange rate fluctuations. And I think it was a couple of months ago when I did, a short example, just trying to demonstrate on my Facebook page, just trying to demonstrate to people that this is what happens, and I was using, actual historical rates. This is what happens. I mean, of course, we are not prophets. We can't see what's going to happen in the future, but what happened in the past can be an indicator of what tends to happen generally. And what has tended to happen over the last 30 years is that the Kenya shilling has tended to lose value to the dollar. The Kenya shilling has lost value to the dollar, consistently. I mean, sometimes it goes up and down, but overall, the value has gone down. So anytime you exchange your dollars to Kenya shillings, just understand that that's going to lose value. It's going to lose value at some point. So you must factor that in when you're making your investment decisions. I'm not in that team that says don't invest in Kenya. I'm totally not there. But I'm saying when you're calculating your estimated rate of return, you have to make comparisons with the rest state of investment. I compare this to resting metabolism. Like the calories you lose when you're resting. Yeah. So think about investments. What kind of investment that you can invest without doing anything, and how much are you making? And that resting metabolism for investment is around 10%, give or take. You can make 10% without, on average, without doing anything. So that is your baseline in dollars. Now, when you're thinking in terms of Kenya shillings, don't think of an investment that will give me more than 10%, because it may give you 15%, but because the shilling lost 40% of its value in the following year, then someone who took their dollars and put them under a mattress actually has more money than you. So that's what people need to factor in. I had put my calculation at a minimum of a 20% return. And by 20% return, I mean net. After you've paid yourself for your time, after you've paid everything, 20% minimum. But in the wake of how the shilling has been depreciating much faster than we expected, right now, unless you have a plan, like an investment plan that can consistently give you 30% every year, you're playing with fire. You're really playing with fire. And there's, of course, a lot of investment opportunities, because we see a lot of white people going to Kenya. We see a lot of Chinese people going to Kenya. We see a lot of Indians, Arabs going to Kenya. So that means there are some good opportunities, even at the dollar rate of return. The thing is, we need to find out what those opportunities are and pursue those. But these normal investments that people are following, that are giving you a 15% return, maybe even up to a 20% return, those effectively, you're putting effort, and someone who's not doing anything is making as much as you, or maybe even more than you. So that's just where people have to put their mindset. when you're going to invest in Kenya? Uno Mike, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I think I was talking to we were talking because it's a discussion that comes up, and you know it's that people are torn. You know, you've got kids here, you're raising them here, but you know you have that foot back home.
Yeah.
You know, because for some of us, you know, like you're looking at your parents, you know, some siblings are there, so it's that trying to navigate, and you know, somebody came up with say, you know what, me, I think what I would do is I would do 70%. He said you do 70-30, and I think 70 would be here, 30 would be home.
Okay.
Because the 70 would be here ideally because the kids are here going to school here or whatever.
Okay.
And then once the kids are grown, you know, then he can be like, yeah, me, if you guys want to come and visit me, you know where to find me, you know. There's some Wazes that I know, you know, most of their friends, most of the people that they know, most of their lives, you know, were in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
They moved here when maybe like a guy is 50, 55. That one, we just know here is probably just coming to work for maybe 10 years, inshallah, 10, 15.
Yeah.
Alafu, arudi. So I think it's also one of those things. Those are conversations that you need to have with yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to have, unajita mkutano. And, you know, kama unajita mkutano, unaongea na bibi, you talk with the children, you know, if you're going to involve them and let them know ahead of time. If you're starting a family now would be the deal time. Okay, now you know what you want. You know, if you're going to be here, if you're going to be back home, you know, let the kids know that. If you have, again, you know, you've got tracts of land, but you're just pulling doubles, but you have a farm and you've never been there. Yoni shida, like you said, you know, like there's a problem. You know, like that is money that is, you can say that is going to waste.
Yeah.
You know, if you know you're
someone
going to
else is benefiting from
absolutely,
that.
as Wacheke said, you know, there's somebody else, the other people who will benefit from that. Or sometimes you'll find that your land has been nyakuliwad.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the things that, you know, like you either you can have stuff here, liquidate, like Wacheke said, you can liquidate if you know utaenda huko. But for the meantime, you can do a certain percentage here and a certain percent home if you know.
Okay.
Lakini again, where jite mkutano.
Okay.
Jite mkutano.
Ali,
Yes.
something else to add on to that. You see all this, you know, white folks and Asians that are going to invest in Kenya. They're not investing their own money. They're investing venture
Borrowed
capital money. That is very different. Kwa hivyo hata akichomeka, he's not feeling it.
Okay.
So that's a difference as compared to you and I. We're investing our own money. Kenyans are investing their own money, hard-earned money that you are earning from your employment. But those white people, it's venture capital money. So even if there are losses, they're not gonna feel the pain. So that's also something to consider when you're looking at them. And they can wait for 10 or 20 years for them to get returns. Can you as a Kenyan, can you afford to wait 20, 30 years to get your return? That's something to factor.
Hey, no, sit tunataka return kesho.
How omo
Yeah. Okay.
Please.
All right. You know, I know, you know, like Annette, and we're also about to wrap up. Annette wants to call it a night. So I just want to hear from you, Annette, regarding what we've been talking about. Just give us, you know, like a quick summary of your thoughts, especially on this aspect of that we're just talking about, a fluctuation in exchange rates, which I think is something that people either don't pay attention to or they act like ostriches. They want to put their head in the sand and pretend that, I'm getting 15%. Yes, you're getting 15%, but losing 40%. And that doesn't sound like a smart financial decision. Annette.
I think from my perspective, there isn't a clear understanding of what the translation actually means. So we're not given the opportunity to compare apples and apples. It's always apples and oranges, apples and mangoes. And the problem with that is that you're making some financial decisions based off of advice that is usually loaded, or you know, someone is benefiting and things like that. And so when it comes to investments, number one, I know from my personal experience, land is a huge thing, and that's wonderful. But if you don't know how to navigate the system, if you don't know how to advocate for yourself and to say, you know what, my father gave me this land or so and so gave me this land, then it is a lost investment. And it would be very, very sad, as was mentioned before. You spent all of this time, all of this energy, all of this money investing in a place, and then it doesn't end up even going to your family. And it ends up going to the government because you have not done the planning. We need to be comfortable talking about our incomes. We need to be comfortable talking about the assets that we have. We need to be comfortable talking about what it is that we have versus what it is that we lack. And that's how our children are going to be able to understand relatively what it is, like what position they're in and what type of decisions they need to make in order to have a more advantageous situation for the future generation. And it doesn't matter what tax bracket or how much money you have. This is a general thing, right? You can come from a rich family and have a very naive child who plunders their money to a point that they go back to poverty. This is something that we experience, unfortunately, in America often. We have millionaires, Black millionaires specifically. They're millionaires and then their children inherit, and then they don't have the financial literacy in order to add on to what their parents were able to do. So the more transparency that exists, the more we actually empower our children. It's not just the money. It's, hey, we're poor, like poverty level poor. If your children have an understanding of that, then they're going to be able to make better financial decisions because they have a realistic understanding. A lot of times we get to understand where our parents are if we are we promote education. Education is very important, right? By the time we're trying to get our FAFSA together, that's when a lot of individuals are actually understanding the financial position that our parents have put us in. In my opinion, that's too late. By the time they're transitioning into high school, they should have some sort of financial literacy to understand where they are financially, which would allow them to even have an appropriate understanding of what they need to do as far as scholarships, as far as money to afford college, or if they want to go to trade school. If you know where your family is financially, then your understanding of those future steps is a lot better. Let's not look at it as a point of, shame or even pride of what we've been able to do, and let's look at it as university, regardless of what situation you are in. How can we put our children in a position to really benefit from what we've done, but also have the knowledge and information to project their lives in a better way for their future after we're gone?
Okay. And I think to support what she's saying, I think it's one of those you just have to start early.
Yes.
These are conversations that you start early.
And early is today.
Early is today.
Yeah.
Early, not early, but early mapema is today.
It's early.
Early.
Yeah.
Or early?
Early, yeah.
Oh my God. So, like mapema,
Yeah.
so that, they know, they have the opportunities,
Yeah.
They have options.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, like she's saying, even if you don't necessarily come from a background of money, of wealth,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
make this the beginning.
Make this the beginning. Yeah.
For you, your family, and your roots, whoever comes after you, your kids and kids, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
start now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday was the best day. But of course, because we can't start from yesterday, today is the second best day. So
Yeah.
this is the best day. That this second best is the best for you to start right now. Annette, thank you so much. For your contribution. We know you have to go. And of course, we look forward to seeing you. Of course, next week we're gonna be off.
We're on break, yes.
Yes, it's gonna be Labor Weekend, and then we're gonna come back the week after that with more interesting programming, and we expect to see Annette. Annette, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you. All right. Did you have a last word?
Thank you so much. Let's think about the future and everything that we do, and grow together. Because ultimately, the Kenyan community can be such a huge economic block, in everything that we do. And if we think
100%.
that way, I think we can do better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Annette.
Thanks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we've never acted as a unit.
No.
And I think that's a reason why the reason why certain groups seem to be much farther ahead than we are, in as much as they may be more than us, is the fact that they're groups that act as a unit. The Ethiopians, for example,
They act as one.
despite the divisions they have, but when they're dealing, like with the government here, when they usually act as a unit. And I think that's where we've struggled as Kenyans to be able to do that. And the unit should also be bigger than Kenyans. It should be like even East Africans. We should be able to act as a unit. We have a lot in common. Like Swahili speaking people across East and Central Africa. We are a very big number. Like if we could just have that one commonality, bring us together, I think we can become a force. So I'm gonna leave this to Wacheke. Like give us your final thoughts. Like maybe a plan of action, like for parents maybe who had not thought about this, and just where maybe we can get started so that
if she's a consultant,
yes,
making money, if people want to reach out,
yes,
she can
exactly,
make some money.
all that
Bituka
details,
hizo.
yeah.
Baby girl, make that money. Dodeka besha, dodeka besha.
Well, I mean, you can always reach out to me, DM me, and we can talk more.
Hey, DM again.
but-
Wait, umeongea mambo ya DM. Hold on.
Zoom.
I mean,
Zoom.
my information is there. That's how we start.
Okay.
That's how we start.
Oh, just checking.
But I think what I want us to start talking about is death. Because if we start talking about death, then when you have that conversation, all other things fall in place. Because now you'll be talking about, do we need a life insurance? What type of life insurance do we need? Do I need to set up a will? Do I need a living will? Do I have a power of attorney? If I get sick and incapacitated, who's going to make decisions for me and for my minor children? So if we look at that aspect, then you're going to be making all the right financial decisions, because death, like we all know, like when death hits the home, it's going to affect, most families are affected financially. So let's be open to talk about death, because like we say, death and taxes are a reality. So let's talk about death. Secondly, let's treat our kids as autonomous beings, and if we take them as such, we're going to be involving them in all the decisions that we are making, because as much as we like to pretend that kids don't know or don't see, they see everything. When we are struggling, they see, they might not understand. Excuse me, but when you talk to them, when you sit down and say, this is how much income, this is our expenses for the month, I would like us to go to Hawaii for spring break. How can we get there? This is how much it's going to cost us. How can we get there? Talk about credit. Credit is everything in America. Wealthy people get where they are because they use other people's money, and they get access to other people's money because of credit. A lot of us, when we come to this country, we have no idea what credit is, and we come and we make mistakes. Before you know it, your credit is 300, 350. And you're like, now you're paying through the nose, because even when you get car insurance, they penalize you if your credit is not good. So let's talk to our children about credit, about physical discipline, meaning that, yes, I can have $100, but I don't have to go to the mall and spend the whole $100. I can actually just go to the mall and window shop and wait for the end of season or what have you. I don't always have to be buying every time. Like, differentiate between a need and a want, and not just that instant gratification. And you don't, as much as I know it's easier said than done, You don't always have to fall to peer pressure, but if we sit down and we're open with our kids, they will understand when you're telling them no. Like even if they want something expensive, they will sit down with you to plan. If they want something for Christmas, like they'll sit down with you in January and come up with plans to be able to afford that thing in December. You know, if they're old enough to, to mow the lawn or babysit or what have you, they can be able to earn the money. But let's be honest, let's not shield them from the reality that we are living, because if you do and something happens to you, they're in shock. Then they realize, oh my God, this is what's happened. I mean, for me, I've learned this from my mom. She was very, very candid with us that this is what she is doing. Every investment that she made, we knew. She would say, this is where it is, this is where everything is. This is my lawyer. This is like, she was very candid like that, because for her, it was a shock when my dad passed away. She was very young. They were a very young couple. And all of a sudden, she's left with 2 kids and she has to navigate, make sure they, get a good life. So she learned from that and passed that lesson and did not want us to make the same mistake. So that is why, for me, I'm very passionate. She did her part, and now I'm doing better. I want to be better than she did, and I want my daughter to be better than I am doing today. So let's just be open, and let's not be too trusting. Like, there's no way to get rich quick. Okay, let's just take that out from our minds. Quay legs will not make you rich. Okay,
Be a politician.
Goliath where will not make you rich. Let's just get out of there. To get to financial freedom, you have to have a solid plan. This is how I'm gonna get there. You're not gonna buy legs today and be a millionaire tomorrow. Let's forget about that, because that's what gets us in trouble a lot of the times here in America, because we start running businesses, we start taking those shortcuts because we want to get rich quickly. I mean, we have seen our fellow countrymen in jail because they have abused the Medicare system, the Medicaid system, the businesses they're running. So let's learn. And all is because we're trying to get rich quickly. There's no way to get rich quickly unless you win the lotto.
Wow. Okay.
Huyu anachoma.
Yes, so there's
anachomea watu wa crypto
no and
na watu wa Zoom.
And and that's fairly true. There's no way to get rich quickly. This thing takes time. And there's so many people out there who are selling this get rich quick products, and we've seen how all of them have turned out. And you see, with crypto, there's people who are now going to jail because of what they were selling to people. I can't remember that young guy's name, the guy with big hair.
Oh, the kid who ran away, the guy who had even FTX. Was it FTX?
FTX, yes. People are going to jail. Like when we were telling people about these things, there's this tendency of people to say, you guys do not understand this product. It's new. See, the worst thing is that this new trendy it's not a new concept. There's always been a trendy product that has been brought in every generation, in every period. So I don't know, but I think that's where we are. Just understand that there's no schemes for making money quick.
Ongelesha watoto wakiwa wachanga.
Yes. And if you make money
and
quick,
that goes for everything. Like, we want our kids to learn Kikuyu, Swahili, Dholuo. Start early.
you have to start early.
Start early. Mathematics, start early. We if you want them to start playing soccer, start early. Mapema. But also involve them. Start early. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And then I think there's a couple of comments here that were coming from Nia while we're having this conversation. And this is regarding depreciating Kenya shilling. She says it is depreciating of reason because it was announced that the USD was no longer going to be used by the Kenyan government. And this was unfortunately, I don't blame Nia because it was the president.
I think it was also Gachagua.
It was the president who announced this, and he even had a rate of how much it will fall to. But that did not.
What was it? 130
It was
something?
120.
120.
No, it was 120, and this is on tape. You know, and currently, I think it's at around 143. 143, 145.
145.
145, yeah.
145.
In that other app. We're not gonna mention them
The
because
other one.
until they pay us. Okay. There's an app that is sending at 145. And then
Kill that story unless they pay.
let me see. And then she further says, by the way, my best friend from California and her husband and children are currently vacationing in the DMV and are gonna go to NYC. I told them to check out the Swahili Village restaurants and to give me feedback. Yeah, Swahili Village currently has 99 problems, but we'll wait to see, you know, like what happens out of that.
Kabisa.
But yeah, you know, you can still go to Swahili Village. They're still open for business. And then here she says, I'm not sure they have
that's-
to squeeze it in the itinerary. I know that they're currently spending time with their husband's relatives. At the moment, she will let me know. It's good that it has multiple locations. Okay. All right, good. And then she says, building wealth is a slow process most of the times. And then Nia says, yes, even Shaquille O'Neal got caught up in that guy's scheme. Yes. you know.
FTX. A lot of guys got caught up.
Yeah, and you know, another red flag, and I don't know whether Wacheke is going to agree with this one on me. Whenever you see a celebrity pushing and pushing and pushing, red flag.
Especially when,
Red
Yes.
flag.
especially when it comes to land.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When it comes to
Absolutely.
like land, I'm gonna say this, like in Kenya, celebs are very notorious. Only for the guys they're pushing for, they scheme people out of money and whatever. Maina Kageni has been part of that. There's some guys who
I think even Caroline Mutoko.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. It's been.
And then, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
And
go
to
ahead.
that point, I feel bad for us diaspora because we're getting it, you know, from all sides. So here, where we live, we have all these products being pushed to us. But then, I don't know if you have seen the trend in the last 5 years is like all these developers, real estate developers, they're targeting diasporas and they're targeting. Like they're not looking at Kenya, they're looking at us. So we're getting it both sides. And some of those things they have issues. Like one of the I don't want to mention, but one of the very popular developers, like a lot of people they've lost money. It's an off-plan developer where you put a certain amount and then they're gonna build, and it's been years. Nothing. I found hata hakuna foundation. And you know what they do? They're the same people. Like when they kula pesa and people find out what they have done, they fold up and go and open another one. The same people, the same culprits.
They rebrand.
They go-
Toboa
Yeah, and-
Magina right now.
Yeah, and they're here, they're doing it. But then when you try to tell people like, okay, look, it's good, invest Kenya. You can invest Kenya because you're emotionally attached. Even me, invest in Kenya because I'm emotionally attached. I also invest in Kenya as a social entrepreneur. I know I'm not gonna get the same return here. I'm very clear as to why I'm investing in Kenya. But let's not lie to ourselves like you're investing in Kenya because it has, most of the time, the rate is now better if you factor in, like what Ali said. Like if America can get 10% while I'm asleep, Kenya, I better be getting 50 to convince me because there's so much risk. There's so much risk involved. Even if you look at all the mutual funds that invest in emerging markets, and Africa is considered an emerging market, to attract investors, you have to give them a higher rate because there's a higher risk. You know, there's so many risks, political risk, governance risk. There's so many things. So if I'm going to be investing in Kenya and America can get 10% and I'm sleeping, I want 50% from Kenya because in Kenya,
Wow,
there's
you had
chance
50.
someone will,
You had 50.
There's a likelihood someone will come and claim that property.
Mhm.
He says, wasn't there a story this week where a family has been, you know, somewhere for
Yeah,
generations, and now
an
another
Indian
one
family.
is
An
coming
Indian
and taking
family.
over.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Kwanza DCI huko,
Yeah.
cops.
Yes.
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I don't know the full story. I don't know, but
We'll never
you know,
know.
that happens a lot of the time. So there's so much risk, and unfortunately, you know, Kenya, they're targeting our brothers and sisters in Kenya are targeting us in the diaspora. You know, because they know, one, like we have access to money and credit, and two, like we can't be in Kenya all the time. So if they come up with some sort of you know, scheme, they'll be able to get one over us.
You know,
So
like,
that's something to think about.
you know, like, here's the thing. I know we are short of time, but I think, you know, like, especially, so, you know, there's this thing of starting a business and doing business. I tell people this. My own mother had a business, taxi business. Unfortunately, it folded because of COVID, but
Okay.
she had a business, Princess Taxi, Princess. This woman would go in 6 a.m.
In the morning.
in the a.m.
Anaamka ama ndo anafika kwa business.
No. She goes in
Wow.
6
okay.
a.m.
That's
anaingia ofisi
Mhm.
because these guys are working. They're working 24, but she'd go in at 6 and leave at 6.
Wow.
Monday through Friday. Saturday she'd go in at maybe 7, 8, leave at 2. Na bado anagongwa.
And she's physically there.
She is present
Wow.
there. Na bado she's yes.
Anagongwa internally na employees.
Anagongwa na the drivers, kwanza especially the drivers and maybe 1 or 2 employees. And she's inside.
Wow. You know,
Sembuse wewe uko hapa.
you're running a business.
You're running a business while you're doing a
Remotely.
double.
You're running a business remotely. Yeah.
Eh?
And you know,
It's even like even akina like Baba Hanya. Even him yada kabiashara.
yeah.
Liquor.
In 254.
254.
Well,
Ameona dust. Baba
Hanya,
Hanya. I had to share.
No, you need to come and talk to
I
us.
had to share with that.
You need to come and talk to us about it.
Kucharazwa nayo.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
you put it to cameras. You're monitoring. What
you're
even
monitoring
numbers.
from here.
Gade. Nyahunyo.
Where you know
So it's one of those like Wacheke is saying. I was gonna say, if you want to invest in land, enda ujipeleke. If you have the ability, go. How many stories have we had of people's own relatives, cousins, brothers, fathers, mothers? Unacharazwa.
And then the other business that has these rackets, the Airbnb, and Mimi, I've seen it firsthand, whereby you have an Airbnb in Nairobi or in Mombasa or wherever. Unaambiwa hakuna clients.
Hakuna client.
Yeah, but then you suddenly discover, because there was one Airbnb we once went to, tulikuwa tumelipa. So as we were going, now the person who was now responsible for giving us the key, the guy was telling us, oh, by the way, hii kitu kama mnataka niwapatie a better rate, mnaweza kuicancel alafu mulipatie cash. Just think about that. You know, just think about, because when it's cancelled, the owner huko anaona, okay, there's someone who was gonna come, but I'm a cancel. And I think Omosh knows about these experiences. That's why he's happy.
Let me tell you, that you know, that cancel thing for us, it is so bad. Think of it this way: the basic business we pay via M-Pesa, right?
Yeah.
So you pay whoever. It's the manager. They give you the till number, and you pay via M-Pesa.
Yeah.
Well, there's this thing where they tell you it's not working, right? Pay.
Cash.
Then they tell you pay to this number. Not cash. They don't say cash.
Or to
Pay
another
this
number. Yeah.
Yeah, pay to this number. Now, this number, and let's say assuming Ali, it's my business,
Yeah.
or I'm the one who has referred you,
Yeah.
right? So you know me personally,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you have come with your famo. Then you're being told, okay, this till number is not working. Pay
Send to
over
this
here. But
number.
pay over here, it's not my number. And it's not, let's say, a number of somebody who you know is affiliated with me.
Yeah.
So whose number is it?
It's a
That is
random
being paid.
person.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's that being gongwad thing that's happening. Something I discovered when I took my trip to the place where the fishes are. Let me tell you, Ali. See, nimeita lift imetokelezea. Then I find the guy, I enter. Then the guy tells me, "Oh, so can you do me a favor? I'm gonna cancel this ride." I'm like, "Yeah? What do you mean I'm gonna cancel the ride? Why are you canceling the ride?" The guy says, No. I'm canceling the ride. You pay me directly. It's gonna be better for me.
And it's true.
Now, Ali, I've never heard of. Normally, you have people who solicit. They'll stand between you and the line for the
a broker.
Or they'll tell you, "Come, you're looking for Uber, you're looking for Lyft,
Yeah.
or whatever." Come, and then they pick you up. Then you go in their moti.
Yeah.
And normally you don't want to do, because you don't know who you're getting in with. You don't know
Yeah.
who this entity is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you just stay away from things like that. If somebody's getting to the point where it's a little shady to me. But this one of a legitimate one, where you've come to a lift, a chap, you've entered inside already, then he tells you straight up, he's like, "I'm gonna cancel, but you send money to me." And then you say, "Okay, but the rate was this." Yeah, that's fine. In fact, you can even give me $5 less.
Unanomekula discount.
No, but remember, by then maybe you might be charged something because there was wait time.
Yeah.
For them to, for
So
you
they
to
might
get
charge you
wherever
like,
it is.
yeah.
Maybe it's $3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is who Jama does not want to share, because they get a percentage.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be coolering 100%.
Yeah.
That 100% is worth it for them to even give you another discount of X.
Yes.
But the money does not go now to
The money doesn't go to Lyft
yeah,
or
The owner
Uber.
of the
to the
car.
provider.
Yeah, to the
Not
provider.
the owner of the car, but to the provider. No,
Yeah.
you are saying owner of the car. My friend, this is in America. That's all I can tell you.
Whoa.
I expect. Yes, niliweka mkono juu. I've never seen any niliweka mkono juu, because normally you'd expect these shenanigans to happen, Matadwald or Uko Nairobi, when you see.
No, it happens here too.
No, this was hapa live and a major city. Mpaka I said higher. Surely this happened pale tumefika, and the person who is the driver is Asian. Nikasema, okay, that's it. I've seen things, but I've never seen this one. I've never seen.
But now you see it happens here, but it's rare. But now in Kenya, it's a common thing, especially
Kenya's the norm. Kenya's the
when
norm, Kenya's the norm, and that's why I was talking about the whole thing of the till number and all of that. Yes,
Yeah.
Kenya, it's the norm.
And the other thing,
it's the norm.
like I had people talking about in my high school group about this bar next door. It was one of the places that was mentioned that selling, because now Kenya has counterfeit liquor.
It has always had that.
Ali,
Yeah.
Ali, let's not.
Adam
Yeah.
has been there since time immemorial.
So what's being sold to people is counterfeit. Kwa hivyo hata ile stock ile mwenyewe amenunua si hiyo inauzwa.
No.
Ni ingine. So the people who come there, they come with their own stock, and that's what they sell to people.
Bro, let me tell you.
Ali, hiyo kitu ni mbaya.
My
Hiyo
bro,
kitu ni mbaya sana.
my bro, an ex used to work pale Gypsy. So we're just vibing at how, so she told us, listen, let me tell you, some guys are very smart. Unless, for example, you're a connoisseur of Johnny Walker Black. Unless that is what you drink, that is your specialty, your special drink.
Your day to day, yes.
Your day to day. Unaenda uitishe na hii ni ile you wanna show that wacha niitishe Johnny Walker Black. Chances are unakunywa Famous Grouse. But so back then, a while back, a tot was 160 for Famous Grouse. One tot. Yohana Mutembei is 300. Three
Yes.
sock.
Yeah.
So they get the Famous Grouse.
Yeah.
They empty that in a Johnny Walker bottle,
Yeah.
right? So you're paying 300 for Famous Grouse.
But now, Sasa he explained to those of us who do not partake in those drinks. I mean, doesn't someone know the difference? So let's say
that's what I was saying.
if you put Sprite in in, let's say, in a Coca-Cola bottle. Let's even assume, you can tell the difference by color, but let's assume the color is the same. But can't you tell the difference? Yeah, taste your Sprite and taste your Coca-Cola.
Sasa,
But you see, the
that's
thing
what
is, that's what I'm saying. You drink Sprite often.
Yeah.
You drink Coke often. You
Yeah.
know the difference.
Yeah.
So if let's say for example you don't drink Johnny Walker,
Yeah.
na mtu anakuletea Jameson.
Okay.
Hautajua? Hautajua?
Utakuwa tumepost Insta.
when is Shag's model? When is Shag's model?
Wewe
you
uko
are-
hapo ama you're a cool kid lakini haukunywangi, you're trying to floss. I'm telling you, that's what I was like. Yes, like people do that. I was like,
can't.
bro.
I can't.
Why?
I can't.
Well, there's
But
another.
that's go ahead.
Sorry. So there's another one. So it happened to a friend of mine. She has a boutique. She sells clothes. So like he was doing well, then all of a sudden, like it's not doing well. There's stock, there's nothing, like there's no customers, and she was wondering what was happening. Kumbe, the employee there had made connections with the distributors. So
you
what she
go.
was doing is like client akitaka kitu akona connection na distributor anakuja anaileta, client akilipa na nini distributor. So wewe ukona shop hapo, you never sell anything because but somebody else is sell, like there are customers coming there every day, but they're not buying your things. They're buying the stock ya employee wako.
Where?
We wanted to start a taxi thing. So I interviewed that guy. We're trying to seek, some
Where in Kenya?
in Kilifi, yeah.
Okay.
So, so it's someone. The idea was maybe can take the moti, engage it into his fleet. Akasema, kwa ukweli me, I don't manage people's cars. And the reason he said is because it is very hard and difficult to get trustworthy people.
That is.
And this is a guy who has been driving taxis from 1984. Tulikatila chini tukaongea naye.
So he has experience. He knows the business inside out.
He drives his own. Him and his wife.
Yeah.
Wanaendeshanga zao. That's it.
Wow.
He doesn't manage. What he will do is if he knows, let's say he trusts you, Ali,
Yeah.
and he knows Ali is solid,
Yeah.
he'll be like, Ali, there's a guy, Omosh, atakuja, he'll rent, this is the plan, sawa. It has to be that referral of like umepea, like you've secret clearance, top secret.
Top secret.
It's a one-on-one.
One-on-one, like you're not going to mess me up. But even that random whatever, well, he's like billers. And this is a guy who has been driving from 84. Amelisha watoto na hiyo, amesomesha watoto. Akasema it's very hard to get a trustworthy person.
Na ame survive, like Uber, Bolt. Ama hizo zijafika.
Imagine.
Hata kama zimefika, but for you to function for that long, uko na clientele.
Uko na clientele, wale wamekuamini.
Those guys who when they call you, you're there.
You're there. Yeah.
That is it. And those ones, and once people commit to be your clients in Kenya, it's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while.
It's gonna
take an act of God. Yeah, maybe,
for you to mess, you'd have to mess up thoroughly badly. And even if you mess up, they'll probably give you another chance.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother has someone who, like kama ana mtu akumpi kutoka kwa airport. My mother has a trusted person that she's been using for so many years.
You have a Nduthi guy, just like how you have a Nduthi guy. You have a tuk-tuk guy. You have a guy. Where Omosh is the one who has them on speed dial. Like where I'm landing, sawa don't even worry. Hapo.
Okay. There's a guy who's joined YouTube anaitwa Cocaine on the Wood Grain.
Wait, Ali, this is a follower or a listener to our show.
That's on YouTube. It's called
cocaine on the wood what?
On the wood grain. Yeah. So that's a new one. So it says, hello, peace. Okay, all right. Cocaine on the wood grain. Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Are we still going to talk about breed? So, I mean, because I know time is of Kiran.
Talk about who?
Yeah.
Breeder or GTZ. Ama we maliza that one.
That one we malized it. Let's wait and see how it will go.
Yeah.
Let's see how that one pans.
Let's see
Hata
how
vile
it pans.
vile Ali alileta knockout punch akaleta chini ya maji na akasema let's see how it goes.
Before we go,
Yeah.
can we talk
Yeah.
about how JKIA, an international airport, can experience a blackout? Okay, can we talk about that?
Blackout. I mean,
Okay,
it's not.
but what are you talking
Apparently
about? The
it's the whole
blackout
country.
that was in the whole country, including the places that have
But
generator?
now, but now,
Yes.
but how does a generator go out, Omosh? How?
It was blacked out. The generator was not on the grid. How is it going to work if it's not on the grid?
No, but the generators are not on the grid.
Wait, no, sorry. The generator was on the grid. That's how it blacked out.
A generator is
But
not supposed to be
why
on the
Omosh-
grid. Omosh, I think
That
Omosh
is
knows something.
That is a security risk. How can you
Okay.
just
You know what? You're very right. Sheke, you're totally right. Now here is the thing. Remember, we had a blackout. I don't think it's a year. Is it a year yet?
It probably
There
is.
was a similar blackout that happened. It was December of was it December of 22?
21.
Was it
No,
December? I think it was
I thought it
21.
No, December of 21. December of 21, I was in
No.
Kenya.
No. But
No,
I
it
know
was
what you're talking
22.
about. 22? December?
It
Just the
just
other day?
happened. Yes.
I don't recall.
The blackout, I was in Kenya. This blackout that they said that is zile vitu zilianguka nini hapa Embakasi. Remember that when
Yeah.
was yes. Sio ilikuwa December ama mimi ndio
No.
kichwa
I don't think
don't
it's
remember.
December.
It was December/January because I was in Kenya.
Okay.
And the reason I know the
Probably
building I
it
was
was.
in had generator. So as we didn't notice that it was a blackout for entire thing because everything was working, functioning. Then ndio sasa unaanza kuona matrend watu wananungunika nasema mazee kuna power. Then on the news now eventually it came out later. Now wakasema at something happened Embakasi. There was I don't know what there was, so you're like, okay, wait, if this and if something can happen at Embakasi to the point where it brings the whole country down, then just like Sheka said, it is an actual security problem. And we thought that whatever that issue was, it was fixed. So clearly that issue may have been fixed, but something else along the transmission line may not have been fixed. Because have we even been told what happened with the grid or how it happened to be that it was a countrywide blackout? No one has told us. So
they had to
Go ahead.
divert flights to sijui wapi.
Yeah, that's
So-
risky.
That's I mean
maybe they
that's a
divert
big
to
risk.
TZ or they divert them to Nini to Rwanda.
Or maybe to
wapi
Entebbe.
they had to. But this has never happened since independence. Like Kenya, we are slowly, instead of progressing, we're regressing.
But
It's if you say that it's because ni current regime not seeing mbele, wewe ni mtu wa sijui kufanya nini. No, there's some things that just like you said, it's a security for power. It should never ever happen. So what are the contingency plans that they have in space or in place for things like this? There needs to be a contingency plan for things like that. When you don't have power, certain things need to stay, up, because just imagine all those international flights or flights you cannot contact because the tower doesn't have any power. They can't talk to these jamas, over Ifanyi, sijui nini. It's a whole trickle down effect. Imagine the number of disasters that could potentially happen with the number of flights that actually come into Nairobi being a hub.
They can say remember it was so hard for Kenya to be able to have that direct flight from New York. They had to do a lot for the US to feel like
You're right.
that far. So this is a big deal. People will be looking and saying, can we really trust Kenyans? Because what if around that time, like somebody, they will always say national security, meaning terrorists that can be able to access because security isn't working because the power was down.
Correct. Yeah. And that also means that, remember those cards that you use to enter the airport, like that you badge in, badge out.
Yeah, the
Or
forks.
let's
Yeah.
say, yes, in certain places, those things are not, those either
They're not
those doors
working.
are open or you can't get in. So you're stuck on one side of the place. You have to call somebody, say, hey, kujeni mufungue mlango. It's just these are things that should not be happening in this day and age, because after having after 911, really we should never, emergency preparedness, because to me this is emergency preparedness. We should always be prepared and have a counter contingency plus another contingency plan. If A happens, then B is a result, and if B and A and B has happened, then C should need it, and then the D kicks in, and then this other thing kicks in. It's the same as when a flight is, those jamas coming and landing and saying, oh, our wheels didn't come off. See, they send the fire engines just in case something happens. So you have to have a contingency plan. What's a contingency plan when these things are not working? Is it solar? Is it wind? Is it generator? There was no diesel that was worked in the generator that's supposed to power up. So guess what? You're out of luck.
Kenya doesn't have anything about emergency management. I mean, look at that.
It's
that
there.
lady.
It's actually there. Wacheke, it's there. Sorry to cut you off. We have it. We have great minds, people who actually have done emergency preparedness, and it's there. But the question now is, where is the rules, or where is the policies being enforced? That's in fact, think of it this way: policies in general in Kenya are never enforced or followed. We have them, but is somebody actually using them? Until they see fit that, you know what, it benefits me to come in and try to enforce. That's the time when they do stuff. It's such a shame. It really is a shame.
Na wahenga walinena kilichona. Oh, finish Wacheke. I know.
I was gonna say we're always playing defensive instead of offense.
Correct.
That is what the populace has been forced to accept, has been programmed to accept. But wahenga walinena kilichona mwanzo hakina budi kuona mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Fire is a bush.
Why I say? So me and my 6 fish, there are 6 now, eh?
They've multiplied.
Zimekuwa they're 6. They're 6. I have to keep checking on them. And if Wacheke endelea hivi anaweza pata kafish moja pia eh. But
akicheza vizuri, akiongea vizuri.
Akicheza kama fish ndani. To our listeners, thank you very, very, very much. We have an upcoming holiday. You guys enjoy with your loved ones. Enjoy the weather. Let's enjoy the last bit of summer things. And we shall see you guys in 2 weeks. And God willing, all of us will show up. We'll be there. And hug your loved ones. Enjoy. Thank you for supporting. Wacheke, thank you so much. Miss Annette, thank you. And to all our listeners, asanteni. Peace. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. This was a very interesting conversation from Wacheke, and also we got very great contribution from Annette. And like Omosh said, we're going to be out next week. We're coming back on the week after, better programming. And tell us, who do you want us to have on the show? Because it's quite unbelievable that we are coming to a close 2023. We're coming to the month of September. So September, October, November, and then of course December, like we always do. We take a break. Na kwa hayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, lakini kabla ya hapo acha tuende kwa Wacheke kwanza.
Thank you so much, guys. It's always a pleasure, participating, whether I'm in the audience or a contributor. So thank you. Thank you for your time. It's a sacrifice to come here every Friday for all these hours, the research you have to do, because for you to present a well-organized show, you have to do advanced research. So we really appreciate and keep it up. And we are waiting for, those spots for sponsorship. We talked about it. We want to make sure the shows continues because it's a very important contributor to our
Amen to
ecosystem
that.
here as Kenyans.
Amen to that.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much,
Wacheke.
Sheke. Is Anat still on? Because I know I thought she left.
No, I
thought
think
she was muted.
I think Annette is off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wacheke. And then, yes, of course, we want to have a structure where we can continue, continue producing these programs without hurting our pockets too much. So,
Amen to that.
So we'll try to figure something out. I want to remind the listeners, yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule, na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Njeri, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week or the other week in 2 weeks, be blessed.
Tanabia